Well, that was embarrassing. That was just a little tiny bit embarrassing. Nothing happened. It's fine. Let's just talk away. So, I don't even remember how we hadn't even rehearsed our introduction.
Yes.
Welcome to Manic Monday.
We managed to do the first 90 seconds of the stream, and then we realized it was recording, but it wasn't going to YouTube. So, welcome back again to the stream. It's Monday, and I'm a big fan of Monday stream time. I think it actually makes the stream better, makes the energy levels better. It is, however, this particular Monday, a bit of a problem. Bit of a problem for Matt, because he has been narratively waterboarded. He is hot off the heels of completing World of Warcraft, The War Within. Mostly, and also playing a shitload of Dawn Trail. So you have enjoyed two very differently paced narrative experiences back to back.
I don't really know how to describe this, but imagine say you're on two skateboards, your left foot's on one skateboard and your right foot's on the other skateboard. One is powered by a gentle breeze and the other is rocket powered. That's how I feel. I feel like I have, one leg is going very, very fast and is torn off me, and the other leg is kind of going nowhere at any real speed. I'll get a little bit more into that as we talk about the stories later on, because so rollerblades, basically rollerblades if you're really bad at them, which is kind of fitting because I'm the one who put the rollerblades on and then did the splits accidentally, which yeah, so the War Within story is I finished as much of it as I possibly could. I could not finish like the last 2 chapters on the max level bit because broken in a very fun way, which is there's a bit where you are with characters and you're going into a place, to be very specific about it, and there's something about this place that just doesn't work, and it generally takes your performance and degrades it until you crash.
Lovely.
Which hasn't been fixed over the entire course of this build. But obviously we know what happens in them, so, all of that going on. Dawn Trail then, I'm about 70-80% of the way through the story, and it is it's very interesting. Lots to talk about at some point, but for now, I think we'll actually talk about World of Warcraft. And especially if you look at the thumbnail, if you look at our title, you'll see M+ saved. She saved us. Because Xal'atath last week decided to show up and save Mythopus. Single-handedly. Nothing to do with the developers, no. Nothing to do with that. Just Xal'atath. She snuck into the office to avoid portal, went, fine, I'll delete Sanguine since you don't want to.
Yeah, so that's the big one. At least, right? And there's an interesting phenomenon that I've noticed, Matt. So, restart. We're in an interesting place for World of Warcraft generally. There's a cohort of people who have been playing the game, they've been playing the game almost non-stop through BFA, through Shadowlands, right? The people who, even if we grumbled, we vaguely stayed around. And, we tasted the experience. And then there's the people who have not done any of that, or maybe just didn't care or didn't really play the endgame stuff. And I've noticed an interesting phenomenon. So I've been reading loads of YouTube comments and also trying to analyze the performance of not only our content, but other creators in different sub-niches of World of Warcraft, and seeing what actually kind of like goes big and gets the views. Now, the reason why I do that is because those views represent inherent audience interest, right? So think of the YouTube algorithm as being a bit like weird Tinder, but for videos. The YouTube...
Jesus Christ.
Brutal, right?
Jesus.
But you know what it's like? We have technically ABC testing now in our thumbnails, but on the YouTube platform, whether, a video that you don't think about and you just happen to not click it, it'll be less likely to show you that. So what we have seen is an increase in World of Warcraft generalist content views, right? That's increased. What is interesting is diving into topics that for people who are very close, to the game, like us, are interesting, like the Mythic Plus changes. Those barely achieve cut-through. Now, talking about something far more broad, UI changes, some big story things, that gets cut through. And it does show a general uptick in Warcraft interest. I don't know if it's people coming back to the game and they don't really have enough of a toehold to find something like Mythic Plus changes to be interesting. So it's one of those things. We have some numbers. We've seen some trends. You can't really make a firm determination as to why. It is still educated, like reading tea leaves. I suppose my current hypothesis is very broad, general interest Warcraft going stronger and stronger and stronger. I'm seeing that some of that more niche stuff, it's not that it's declining or anything. It's more that it's like staying a bit more flat. And in a way that makes sense. New expansion, lots of marketing budget, like multiple flashy new trailers. I mean, the flippin' beta got a cinematic. That's not normal. So that has definitely re-engaged a broader cohort of World of Warcraft people. I think that extends beyond those of us who have actually quite solidly been there for the last while. And therefore we see these Mythic Plus changes that we're about to talk about. And, whenever this happened, we're all messaging each other in Discord like, holy fuck, game saved. Or, oh my God, it's so over. Whatever it is.
The two possible states of being.
Yeah,
yes,
there's only two states.
Of course, yes, we're so back and it's so over. Nothing else matters. There's no in between.
So I just thought that's been interesting in terms of trends. To us, this is fascinating and I love talking about this. It has struggled to capture as much of the audience that I would have expected given the uptick in performance of very generalized content. And I mean, there's certainly a few hypotheses as to why. I think it just shows there are people who are disconnected from this type of story who are actually considering Warcraft content again. Now, that's a really good sign.
Yeah, I mean, that's off the back of, obviously, Plunderstorm and Mob Remix. Yeah. And also the fact that they're including Delves as an example for solo players.
And our Delves video did really well.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, yeah. So I think like there's the I'd say they're like reaping the fruits of what Holly has been sowing. At least when she talks about the mid-core and the casual and the kind of thing where they're actually trying to make a game a little bit more for them than they are for when they're stuck in the like I guess I'd say stuck in the M plus minds, stuck in the iterating on the existing pillars of content they have to make them better. It's the kind of thing of, it turns out you can, if you're making, let's go food analogy time.
Yeah.
If you're making pizza, you can make, pizza's maybe a bad example because a lot of people love it. But, you say you're making pizza.
And remember, you got to follow Gemini's advice. Always keep your glue close to hand when you're making pizza so that your toppings don't slide off.
Yes. So instead of deciding that maybe we'll put food on our pizza instead of glue, no, they were doing that, and you can only do that so much. You can only optimize pizza so much before you go, well, maybe not everyone on the planet wants pizza. And
some people are wrong,
and they've kind of figured out that what they to make the analogy somehow make less sense. If World of Warcraft was an Italian restaurant, they stopped serving pasta a long time ago, or at least they let their pasta get stale and shitty. And then they're going, we've hyper-optimized for pizza enjoyers. Shit.
So are we all just like, the pasta's back, boys? Pasta's back in the menu.
More or less. They went, they've made the pasta good this time. So pasta enjoyers show up. Pasta enjoyers in this case are the mid-core and the casual who don't M+ every day and don't like Mythic Raid. Turn around and go, this restaurant's good again.
Which is to say, if you've been following our content steadily since BFA or Legion, right? You're probably going to see these Mythic Plus changes and be really interested in them as we are. But if you were re-engaged generally because you heard Metzen was back, you saw a pretty cool big trailer that had the sword, and that maybe you're like, oh, the sword, they're finally doing something. Of course, the last memories that people had with the sword were pretty positive because it was the end of Legion. That was a real high point. So they're rooted in that. World of Warcraft generally just gets way more buzz. Do Plunderstorm, do Remix. If that's what engaged you, you're not going to be as interested in this sort of M+ topic because that's just been a thing that, us sort of always in and around the game people have been talking about for ages, but that, won't mean as much to more disconnected people who are now returning to the game, which is, extremely positive. And seeing Delves do well, it reminded me, I suppose, a bit of a contrast. Whenever BFA came out, if you were... I remember, we're going to maybe say we do a video on explaining island expeditions to people. and it would get like no views. Same for like Warfront stuff at times. And it's because there was boring features. There wasn't that much to them. People weren't interested. But now we're actually having the inverse, where the sort of traditional expected content, even if it's getting a significant and I think potentially extremely positive overhaul, people are happy about that. They're interested. Not as much as people seem to have an appetite for basically for delves to see how they actually are. I think that just shows like what you were saying, the delves audience. A lot of what Holly's been talking about.
Yeah, those people have been like starved for a long time. They've been hungry for a long time, and now they go, well, would you like some sustenance? And they're like, yes. Funny enough, actually, yes, we would like the thing we've wanted for years.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's just very difficult to say exactly what you want.
Like a spark of genuine excitement that I got. So I was I wasn't really on top of my shit, so I ended up just feeling like I was spitting plates. A lot of news channel videos, lots of thumbnails and stuff, so my head's kind of spinning. My finger's not really as much in the pulse. You report back on how good delves are, and that was one of those moments that was like, at least to me anyway, really refreshingly exciting. As in, that's when I thought, fucking hell, we might actually be back. Because, praise for a feature like that from you actually does matter. It does get cut through. Right? The way there's... it's whenever people say, it's so over, we're so back all the time. It's like, it's dead alive, dead alive, dead alive. I feel like, it's right. It's not to tell everybody that you just, message me like, delves are the best thing ever. And you should be amazingly excited and they're perfect. Because we did get some comments on that video that were like, oh my God, I can't believe you've got to slip in some criticisms. I'm like, man, that was a really positive video. Like, holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
But like to me, it meant something. It meant something. And that like got me excited. And evidently whenever other people are hearing that these beta experiences of delves are like refreshing, that's getting cut through to a broader audience.
Yeah, and that's exactly, I think, where delves getting... And this is kind of interesting because I think the same thing sort of happened a little bit in the past with... It sort of happened a wee bit with Island Expeditions. But that was off the back of Legion, where people didn't realize that we weren't going to get lots of content for you to do all the time. Because you do Legion and you go, okay, well, we're finished Legion. I just got done playing every class because of class halls. I just got done with Argus being a fantastic patch zone. I got done with the Mage Tower existing and being really good, especially towards the end where, the more casual player could hop in really overgeared and kind of, find all of like the written guides and be able to kind of, especially for some of like the healing ones that were very much, you can use this ability at this time and you're sorted. There's a lot more of actual engagement with that. Island Expeditions were sort of vaguely, sort of almost maybe sort of promising. And then they turned out to be pull everything in the island and blast it and do it every couple times a week for your artifact power or your Azerite power, sorry. And then the same with, you've got your, I almost forgot what it was called, Torghast in Legion, Torghast and Shadowlands, sorry. Torghast and Shadowlands, where everyone's like, Torghast is a great feature for you to play by yourself and have fun. And then that turned out to be absolutely not true in any capacity, despite their best efforts, unfortunately. So I think like now that we've had the time away from that in the Dragonflight where they go, what do you do by yourself? Fucking fly around or something. do Scare Vault, stuff, but not like a huge feature, right?
Oh, it was
a huge back-to-box feature.
It was awesome in a much like how at one point our government said, oh no, it's okay. We're only breaking international law in a limited and specific way. Hey, if you're going to break international law, that's the way to do it. I found that the generalized Dragonflight content really worked for me in a limited and specific fashion, which is if I sat down to play that in the way that I would want to really just slurp up a video game experience. Recent ones include like Still Wakes the Deep, playing Alien Isolation, Resi 4 on professional difficulty.
On a horror binge?
On a horror binge. But like, so in the Resi 4 thing, I did that in professional difficulty because I want to get is it the bunny ears? So the bunny ears unlock is basically doing that game on the hardest difficulty with only 15 saves for the entire game. So like big challenge, big gamer challenge. If I was in the mood to play that and I hopped into the Dragonflight endgame, would not give a shit. But there are times when it's like brain empty. You know, you've came home from work, you've had a puff, away you go. Just vibing. That actually worked for me. But it wasn't a complete experience because it didn't have, you know, any flipping teeth.
Yeah.
That's what has always been missing.
Yeah, and I think that actually did better for people in a lot of ways. I think that being like toothless, but being generalized, not being here's your box, climb in your box and be in your box casual player. It was the whole world is yours casual player. I think that ended up being a little bit more enjoyable to people. So them having that and not getting rid of that, because one of the things people don't talk about very much is all of the like end game and world content in the War Within, and for good reason. Because first you have to, you know, the world isn't available on the Fresh 80 server.
Yeah.
So if you want to test endgame, you have to level, which is, you know, that's not the most effort, but it is a good like 10, 12 hours if you don't know exactly what you're doing and you aren't speedrunning. So it does take a while to level, and then stuff doesn't always work or isn't always guaranteed to work. And there's no feedback yet on like why it doesn't work. So you'll go to like the say the theater troupe, which seems to be very reminiscent of the Shadowlands theater thing in, what's it called? I forget all of the proper nouns of Shadowlands. I've intentionally destroyed it. I've been Ardenweald. That little place. So there's that. People aren't talking about that as much, but they are people talking, like people are more interested in the delves because that's like the big thing. So having both the delves and that will also kind of go to show that the players who don't care about M+ are more likely going to be the players who will, like, they'll have more than they're even aware of going in.
Yeah.
Realistically, because it'll be Dragonflight's on-game content iterated on, plus delves as well on top of that. So like, if you want to have a full, you know, session of gameplay without touching any group content, you more or less can do that more than you could before.
The core thing, I think, is the Soul Cinder and Ash problem is kind of gone. So
yeah,
that, as you said, that the whole world is yours gameplay, that will generate the keys that open the resplendent chests within the delves. So by doing what a lot of that player profile was doing anyway, you know, they get to progress. There are still some concerns there about, you know, doing a delve without a resplendent key may feel terrible. And maybe if you only get so many keys a week, you have a decision to make about when do you spend them. How does the gearing system work? What happens if you spend a key on like a level 4 delve, but then you get to a level 8 delve and you don't have a key? You know, so there's like little, you know, quibbles and endgame gearing things, but big picture, good.
Very good.
Very good. And I guess that brings me. So we've talked about general WoW audience, people being engaged, people being interested. To go to the more specific, deep nerdy shit. Yeah, there is Xal'atath appearing.
She's
saving Mythic Plus. Thanks, Zal. Please don't kill her. Maybe she'll save other things.
Oh, she's so dead. She's so dead. Just not yet. She's too milkable as a character to like immediately kill. Like that's for sure. That's for sure. So this is us. We are so back, allegedly.
Yeah. So I guess the TLDR here is they basically decided to remove, other than Tyrannical and Fortified, every single affix that you know. If you hated storming, not because it bricked your key, but because it was mildly annoying, good. If, like, I don't know, bolstering and stuff like that ended up bricking a run because of a simple mistake, that's also gone. You'll probably be happy. So what's the stuff that's been removed, I think, wasn't fun. Like, at least personally, I've never really looked at those particular affixes and thought, oh, great, volcanic. Yeah, gameplay variation. What it's been replaced with is, I think, broadly better, but it does have design pitfalls. And in a few areas, it risks going against some principles that they wanted to implement. But in a case like that, I guess it's a cost-benefit analysis. So to give people the TLDR, just so that we're all caught up to speed and we can kind of like have the discussion on a good foundation. Right. This is still the new system. So Mythic Plus 2 here is the equivalent of Mythic Plus 12 in the old system the Dragonflight shipped with. A Mythic 0 dungeon is the equivalent of a Mythic Plus 10, but it has no affixes and no timer. The Mythic Plus side of the system then kicks in, and from what we understand anyway, it seems that it's relevant to gearing from levels 2 to 10, or perhaps at maximum 2 to 12. And the way that they're handling affixes is actually completely different. So Your very first affix in any Mythic Plus will be Xal'atath's Bargain. Xal'atath's Bargain is basically, if you were to imagine an affix that is quite important, but not as important as an old seasonal affix. It's themed around Xal'atath. There are 4 of them. We've tested 1 so far.
Only one of them.
Yeah, there's 4 in total. Those will be different every week. Right?
Only know 2 of them as well.
Yep. The other 2 we just completely unknown. These are Kiss Curse affixes as well. That basically means that yes, they will provide you some form of challenge to overcome, but if you do a good job of that, you'll get some sort of reward. And it means that a skilled party who do it right will probably feel like a beneficiary of this affix change.
Yeah, I think the best example of this is probably Frenzied here, which is non-boss enemies become frenzied at 30% health remaining, increasing their haste by a whopping 40%. That's going to be scary, but they take out 20% extra damage, which means if this is a stunnable enemy, perchance, or something like that, or you've got everyone coordinated, you go, well, that's a dangerous enemy. It's about to hit. Okay, everyone train it, hit, aim for it, get your interrupt rotations ready to go for the 40% haste. Maybe stun it if you can, and just destroy it. And once you get people cycling and targeting focus that way, or going for a hold AoE CC until everything's 30%, and then we'll blow it up. Stuff like that is kind of the important part there.
Yeah. So your challenge is to minimize the damage and to maximize the benefit. And I guess there's a little bit of texture that'll vary week to week depending on your class. If you have an execute, then you'll probably feel great that your execute will just do 20% more damage, especially if it crits. That'll be juicy. So that's the Xal'atath's Bargain stuff. Those, 1 will be active. It rotates every week. At Mythic Plus 4, Tyrannical or Fortified will become active. Okay? At Mythic Plus 7, a new one is active that's called Challenger's Peril. So Challenger's Peril, rather than being bolstering or sanguine or anything like that, it simply increases the death penalty from a 5-second hit to the timer per player death to a 15-second. That is a lot more punishing. However, I guess what the devs are thinking is this makes death more punishing, but because there's less affix bullshit, in theory, it should be a fair punishment because the dungeon should feel more learnable. That's likely their gambit, or at the very least, they want in this to capture the risk of some of their affixes, but to do so in a way that essentially does not impact game mechanics.
Yeah, that's clearly it. They clearly you look at the numbers, and they've done this every time so far. They've wanted the key points, or the break points rather, or where your keystone suddenly gets harder for some reason. And this is the fun version of, we want it to be harder at 7, but we're not going to put another affix in. Yeah. Which is, you look at it and go, well, what's the point of doing that? And you kind of think, well, if you sit back and think, what's the alternative? What other universe could these developers have spawned? And I can rarely think of a better one than this.
Yeah.
Considering operating under the principle that they will have a breakpoint.
I mean, if you think about it like this, okay, what will this result in? On average, more of the timer will be lost to deaths. And you can achieve that by increasing the impact on the timer of a death, or you can try to do it by increasing the number of deaths. I think this emphasizes the risk reward in a way that minimally interferes with what a player wants to do, which is exactly what some of the affixes at their worst could do in the past, where it's not that there's a punishment, it's that it feels unfair, it's that it feels bullshit, and that it feels external. Like, if you die to a thing that feels just external to the dungeon, you're just sitting there like, oh, great, somebody walked into a sanguine pool with a really stupid mistake. Or we messed up bolstering and it's taken 18 months to kill a mob. You're just angry. I'm not, unhappy about that. I think a more healthy form of difficulty is, risk reward in a context of predictability and not increasing cognitive load, which is exactly what that achieves. The final thing then, and this was initially controversial, I think it caused a bit of sticker shock. Not sticker shock, but your first reaction is, whoa, what the fuck? And that is that at Mythic Plus 10, the other main affix kicks in. So if Fortified kicked in at Mythic Plus 4, Tyrannical will kick in at Mythic Plus 10.
On top of Fortified.
On top of Fortified, you'll have both active. Now, a lot of, if you're not pushing keys, you might look at that and think, sweet Jesus, what have they done? That's insane. I cannot imagine this. There's, I think, two main points that I would want to make. One, a lot of the more competitive players who actually enjoy pushing, it's push. Look at, right. Every week is push week. Isn't that crazy? So they've basically done this so that at the absolute top echelons of this gameplay system, regardless of what week it is, at a plus 10, you have both on. It's like that every single week. That's it. And for a lot of people who enjoy the competitive aspect of this, and the players who really enjoy to challenge themselves, the type of challenge that those players enjoy is not one that involves their challenge being changed all the time, because I guess they want to practice. And I guess maybe the really newbie version, or the more accessible version of that is, if an action RPG is just kind of well balanced and doesn't feel like it's got too much bullshit, even if it's decently hard, you can just get into the flow and just keep on going and going and going and engaging in that mastery loop in a really clean way. Whereas if one week it's tyrannical, the other week it's fortified, that you don't really get that. You don't get that. And the problem that WoW would then have, and it's one that I don't know if me or you would ever feel it, but Dark Horse certainly would, where if you want to, you want to get a higher rating, don't bother doing that dungeon on, whatever week it is, because the combination of affixes just means it's bullshit, and you may as well not spend your time. And that feels awful.
Yeah, I mean, you're actually jumping the gun a little bit, because that is all true for Triangle and Fortified being their 10. But for 10 and 11, and this is interesting, for 10 and 11, you still get Xal'atath's bargain swapping around. So it will be, say you're doing a 10 one week, and it'll be the bargain where it's the frenzy, the haste. So you figure out, okay, well, stun blah, 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 blah. Say for some reason you're not an execute class, you don't enjoy that very much, whatever. Fine, come back the next week, and it'll still be a 10, it'll still be 11. It will still be the same dungeon in terms of how the mobs and bosses are scaled, which is going to remove a huge amount of the variation week to week.
There's one difference.
Yeah, it's not going to be, why are mobs one-shotting me this week when they weren't last week? The only difference will be that, say, maybe the other one will be active, which we didn't really explain, but there's Xal'atath's Bargain Ascendant, which are these orbs, which are, if you did the Razageth fight, the Razageth orbs that you need to disrupt, either be a stop, a stun, interrupt, that thing. They'll come down, she'll appear, hover over you.
I saw people running through them.
No.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was people running through them at the same time that one of their allies did a stop or something.
It would have been. Running through them doesn't anything. They need to be disrupted. So those are the ones where if players disrupt these orbs, they claim a haste and movement speed for themselves. If you don't, and it's very heavily weighted on the risk versus reward. If you get them all, because there's 20 orbs that spawn in waves, if you get them all, that's a lot of orbs to interrupt, by the way. You're going to need AoE for that. And also be patient till they all spawn. That'll give you 20% haste. Every missed orb gives the enemy 10% haste.
Yeah.
So hit them, please, or your tank will be very unhappy.
The thing is, though, I noticed when I was looking at people's gameplay, the buff is party wide.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's the whole party will get 20% haste if you do that mechanic right. So
yeah, that was my first thought. I was like, am I kind of trolling here by being a prop paladin and just blinding lighting 10 of them at once? Am I trolling? And then I noticed, I checked, I was like, oh no, I'm fine, okay.
What I like about that is it's a great point of power for you as a paladin, and then somebody in your team's like, sick, the paladin just did his big shiny, and now I have more haste.
Yeah.
The only other little thing, the final thing before we hit what they do at plus 12, I believe, or at least I assume, that the very best gear available at an end of run will max out at Mythic plus 11.
I'm assuming 10 because they haven't said they're changing this.
I remember I remember at some point they said that, or at the very least for crests, they've notched up where you get certain crests, because basically they felt that there was not a fair parity between the challenge and reward of Mythic Plus and Raid. And whenever these things are imbalanced, then one begins to eat the other. So if you're a raider and you feel stupid for raiding because you feel like Mythic Plus is a way better way to get not necessarily the exact bit of gear that you want, but just super high item level gear, then you'll feel bad when you're raiding. And if a raid gives way too much gear, then you'll feel stupid doing Mythic Plus. So they got to be in balance. I'm not sure if maybe...
It does imply that anyway. It does imply that, 12 is where it becomes... This is the high score mode.
Yeah, and that's the really interesting thing. So in their blog post, Blizzard basically said that in the past, they were trying to do a one-size-fits-all solution with how their affixes were working, where it's always the same system, it's just more of them come online. What they've basically realized is for the top-end people, you don't want to be trying to do, say, a speed run in Super Meat Boy, but the timing of the environmental threats or whatever is just slightly different from week to week.
That would actually literally undermine the entire video game.
Yeah, and they've realized that that's actually what it was happening in Mythic Plus. So 2 things happen at Mythic Plus 12. Number 1 is Xal'atath's Bargain is disabled.
So it's the same dungeon every single week.
Yep, you have Tyrannical is active, Fortified is active, and all of that basically means is all the mobs are strong, and it will scale more aggressively as you move from level to level. There is zero keystone variation. And Xal'atath's Bargain, it gets disabled, and then Xal'atath's Guile is a buff on enemies.
Yep, just a flat damage and health buff by 20%, which will also go on top of Fortified and Tyrannical to be a third modifier on top of the dungeons itself modifier. So people are certainly going, I hope they can keep on top of all of this mathematically and numerically, because that's a lot of numbers to keep in your mind.
But I have a thought there.
Oh no, not
the
those.
more gradually the scaling goes, the more that the players will sort of be edging their way higher and higher and higher, but by cheesing it, or by only doing it in the most optimal week with the best set of affixes in the current system. Maybe they want it to scale a bit more aggressively so that they effectively just limit some of that. Maybe. I'm not exactly sure. What I did see is loads of players who are really deep into Mythic Plus basically saying, oh, it's the same every week, thank God. I can focus on the thing that I think is fun, which is improving my character, having a super optimal build, learning how to play, learning how to build my character for different dungeons, and learning, different comps with my friends. That's what they enjoy. They don't really enjoy the affixes. And it was interesting that Blizzard themselves said that they thought that sort of normal or lower end players get a variety benefit from affixes being there and rotating, while they acknowledge that it's not good for the competitive experience. I thought that was interesting because as one of those casual low-end players, at least in the context of Mythic Plus, I never felt that variation served me. And I think that's because, I remember we were doing something in Mythic Plus and you reminded me of the Keystone website and its little, I don't know if it was what it would put in your browser bar, but the tagline was like, what bullshit will I have to deal with this week?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, is Xal'atath's Bargain some bullshit you'll have to deal with?
Yes.
Yeah. And we can get into that and their principles. But because you benefit from it, it feels like there is a sense of action, and that means that it's more within your sphere of control. And even if you don't directly control it in the way that you don't directly control the frenzied effect, well, whenever you use an execute move, it'll be really chunky and that'll feel good. So you at least feel like you're getting some form of benefit. And I think that's way more healthy. Plus, big thing, one thing changes a week, that's it. And so Fortified and Tyrannical, they will swap at what level they become active at. That will make things feel a bit different. But fundamentally, it's just one affix where, Xal'atath's Bargain is a set of 4 affixes that are replacing all 8 other ones we used to have. And that's sort of that. And the criticism is, because in the past, in fact, 3 weeks ago, because it was what struck me about how agile they appear to be. Because whenever they posted those changes onto beta, the initial ones where basically different schools of magic would get preferential treatment every week, which of course meant if you use chaos magic, you're OP.
That was so half-baked. It's unbelievable how half-baked that was.
And the thing is crazy, right? Because you might have thought that slipped its way onto beta, and, you know, this has got a proper reveal and announcement and nice graphics. No. That past design that we didn't like had a blue post explaining it and their intent. So within the space of like 2 weeks, they seemingly listened to player feedback. Like, I remember one of the things that we were talking about on stream is just theme it after Xal'atath. She's the villain of the expansion. Make her pull funny shit. And it was really funny. I mean, 2 weeks later, bam, there it is. And
yeah,
it was way more
without
than...
any new assets either, because they have a Xal'atath model, they have the Cosmic Orb models, so all they had to do was, and there's no like sound effects or voiceover for her, so I can imagine they just fired this together in like in no time. But you know, whatever form of inspiration took, or maybe this was like one of the things on the drawing board they had written down they were going to attempt at some point. You know, because obviously maybe they didn't ship that and say, oh shit, we're out of ideas, they didn't like that one, oh god, what do we do? More of a, I didn't like that one, that's fine, we'll just try the next one.
Yeah.
Try the next one.
Like,
do
you remember the Blizzard of Azerite armor?
Oh yeah, the Blizzard of Azerite armor, where, you know, it's literally, we would like to change this, but that's going to be at least an expansion away, and you're like, spot on, boys.
And that was only after they admitted that with like patch 8.1. I remember, and it's funny because, you know, Lore was the guy who had to make the post. And I suppose it's funny because back then, you know, we're all very in the trenches. And we're all like, oh my god, I cannot believe that Blizzard, posted by Lore in the forums, have said this terrible thing. And I mean, a lot of that was actually justified because they were being really pig-headed. The Blizzard of that time was really pig-headed. And one of the reasons why Shadowlands looked the way that it did is because they did not respond pragmatically and with emotional rawness to the feedback of BFA. I shall say no more. And I guess, you know, it's sort of grapevine stuff. But I bring it up because of the contrast between then and now. Which is that, yeah, in 2 weeks, not only did they just like change the design, that's radically different.
It's radically different, and it's well considered.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But it's not completely considered, which I think is fun. Because I see people...
Let's take them down.
Yeah, I see people... No, this isn't taking them down. People are asking about it in chat. People are asking in chat about, like, dungeon score. I was like, yeah, they haven't figured that out yet. Because obviously, you look at it, you go, well... you've got your bucket of change here, right? Where under 2 and 4, it's your variety, every week variety. And then under here, it's like, well, it gets a bit tougher. Under 7, 10, it goes, well, now this changes every week. But, you know, if I do a keystone at 10 on week 1, and then on week 2, do I get more points? Do I get more score? Or no? Because Fortified and Tyrannical are the things that split the week in terms of where your score comes from.
It'll be awkward.
So it'll be fun if they manage to decide this. And that ultimately means, well, you don't have to do your key twice now if you want to score. If you're good enough now, if you're good enough and geared enough to just bomb straight into a 10 or an 11 and do that, then you could finish KSM in 1 week.
If totally applies to me. I'll do that in week 1 because I'm a pro gamer. We're both pro gamers.
Exactly. We're very, very good. Please don't watch any of the footage from the Dells video where I play like a fucking moron. Did you know that I did the entirety of the Underwater Delve as a druid? It wasn't until my second run I realized I could restore my breath by going into aquatic form. I just didn't think about it.
Bro, you forgot you were a seal?
I died multiple times to being out of breath before I realized I can just go seal form.
And made it into the script?
Yeah, and that's why you play the game multiple times before you come up with any ideas. Anyway.
And it's a really good way of, depending on what class you've chosen and what sort of character race you've chosen, you'll have a few little maybe unique strengths in a few of the delves. Now, I don't think that that's really even keel across the game, and that is a problem. But I don't know. I think it's nice that you're a dwarf, and that means you can do a cool dwarf thing. I think the other thing with this is, I think in the past, they would have looked at the problem with Mythic plus score, and they just said, I can't do this idea, because it's got to be firmly divided.
Yeah, we have to have the weekly alteration, or else the game breaks apart.
I guess what I hope for with this... I suppose I like the idea that you're getting a little bit of progression between 2, and 2 and 3 give you a little bit of progression in any dungeon that you do, on like both of your scores in a way. And then whether it's tyrannical or fortified between 4 and 9, that's giving you the tyrannical or fortified side of your score. And then, as you pointed out, if you do it at plus 10, you get both, which would feel really awesome. And I actually think that would, for players who are geared to the tits from the last tier, it would feel really good for them to knock that out as quickly as they could without having to wait for loads of weeks to change. And I think that would be a really good positive feedback loop that would have players feeling that they get a real good tangible benefit from their progress last tier into the current tier, which is a problem the game suffers from.
Yeah, that's not going to be super relevant here, just because item level of going up 10 levels is kind of big. That said, obviously I think the numbers are close enough to final for item level, and I didn't start to play, I did not play this season very much whatsoever. I'm at item level, I think it's a bunch of 5-10 pieces mostly on my paladin around there. And that was the character I copied to level with. And I didn't start replacing them until I was basically max.
Oh, shit.
I mean, I was replacing them with Explorer gear when I was max. But at the same time...
You were max!
I have...
Notable world first raider!
That was me, yes. So that was... that won't be a thing for the expansion launch. Realistically, unless there's some super busted trinket that people hold for a while. But generally speaking, it is mostly going to be a thing from the tiers going forward.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, as it's always been anyway, it'll just be you get your KSM, what's it called? Fucking the token, the Mark of Mastery, that's called.
Yes.
Yeah, the Mark of Mastery week 1, basically, which I'm sure people already do from doing 15's River. But yeah,
so it's pretty cool stuff. Now, the one thing that you that first popped up in your mind, which is completely right, is you're like, hang on a second. They in that last post they said that they didn't want
this
nameplates. Oh, you had the asset ready.
Yeah, they didn't want this.
Whew.
Yeah, this was this boss was not going very well in the first place. And then we had 2 dead because of boss damage. I was low on HP, and we're like, oh, it's over as hell here.
So
it's over here. That's the Ascendance one. So I'm hoping there's maybe something to do with that, but there's 20 nameplates, all casting, drop on your head, and you go,
solutions.
Jesus.
Because maybe we are in a time where they're really interested in the community ideas. And I don't mean that as a way that is a knock against them. I mean that, and I guess...
SMH were doing their work for them.
Well, it's we come from the programming side where, computer science university, where rubber ducking is really important because there's times you'll be stuck in a problem for days. And even if you just have a chat with a friend who kind of knows programming logic but isn't even working the same problem as you, and sometimes that dialogue solves the problem in your head. So that the feedback's really important. I feel like this is them realizing, no, we can actually listen to the community. They're not always going to tell us exactly what the best solution is, but the process of listening and reacting and thinking is kind of like rubber ducking, and it's useful. So if we were to workshop fixes to this, because you're so right, that's a lot of stuff in your screen. Could you half the number of dudes that spawn and double the effect of each?
Easily, yeah. Very easily. That would make it a little bit more thing, because it's very much supposed to be. I mean, it feels designed to be a little bit overwhelming, and it feels designed to be, you need your AoE. But then it really forces you into having your AoE stops and spells, which most people do as a group. But that's the thing where I think they look at this, and it depends on who's working and who's where, but there's definitely a case where they look at what can a group solve versus what a person can solve.
Yeah.
They've looked at this as what can a group solve, and the answer is any group should realistically be able to solve this. Because AoE stuns, most people have an AoE disrupt or something like that. But it results a little bit but people can't solve this. And if you go in and you don't have something to solve this, or as an example, as a prot paladin, I don't have many tools to solve this. Obviously, Avenger Shield will interrupt 1. I've got Rebuke to interrupt 1. If I'm really pressed, I probably should be using Divine Toll on cooldown anyway for, on a boss that's killing me because it's tuned that way, and we've really low gear in here. Okay, well, I really should be using that on CD for the boss, but if I need to use it to get another interrupt out, then that sucks terribly.
Yeah.
And then there's also, I've got Blinding Light, and Hammer Justice. Hammer Justice, 1 stun, okay. Blinding Light, fantastic, AoE, but that's on 90 seconds, and this happens every minute or so. Which means, they certainly, it's supposed to be like, are you supposed to coordinate this? Then why is it Nafix coming in at, why is it so heavy on punishment? And why is it coming in at level 2? You expect group cohesion and group coordination about a 7 or above, not necessarily on 2, I imagine. Please remove this image. This is visual vomit. Okay. I will. Don't worry. Use all interrupts and stuns on orbs. Mob cast something. Wipe equals profit. That's the other problem where there's times where, I had to run to get an orb and I was stupid and the boss hit me in the back and killed me. And I'm like, well, I shouldn't have done that as a tank, but also I was the only one to get that and I didn't want to get that.
One is reminded of Quaking in the Ner'zhul dungeon from Shadow Moon, Burial Vaults. There was a space... Burial Grounds, yeah. Burial Vaults.
SPG.
Yeah, the bit where you're fighting the worm boss. The worm boss mechanic is, hey guys, you gotta stand in this patch of goo. And then a Quaking appears on the patch of goo and you're like, cool, guess I'll die.
A stack and a spread happened at the same time. Cool, fantastic, wonderful. So there's definitely a bunch of issues with this. As to get a solution for it, I'm not really super sure outside of one of the things you could potentially maybe do, and this is a little unfair for ranged casters. And pity the range casters. Everyone know that they're so hard done by all the time, getting to stay far away from everything and do more damage to the console. Anyway, so you could be like you walk over them or you stop them in the same way as basically half the other orbs in the game. Because that's what I was expecting the first time I saw them. I was like, oh, I run over them. Oh, no, I don't. The Razageth orbs. Okay. I was expecting it to be orbs from what is the water swirly boss shithead. From
Temple of Jade?
No, from Naku Defensive, the second boss, the one that killed everyone forever.
Yeah, big swirly whirly.
Yeah, his big swirly orbs that come in. You could maybe do something like that. Maybe.
Yeah.
But the thing is that this definitely sits right over and right on top of all mechanics because it wasn't coming in at any. It was coming in roughly every minute or so. And that was an absolute massive pain in the ass for this boss. The amount of times we died because you could feel it. The boss was doing Voracious Bite, which hits me with a stack where I take double damage. I'm like, oh shit. Well, I have to, I'm really stressed out trying to not die to this. I need to cycle all my defenses given the gear we had. Okay, shit. And then I would watch, Dakar run over to take some orbs. I'd run to take some orbs. Do I have to run out of my consecration to get orbs? Oh, well, I'm going to die. So if I decide to do that or not, whatever. And then the healer just didn't heal me for 1 second because the healer was casting Master Spell on the orbs. Or a Psychic Scream. I'm like, okay, well, that was a mistake.
So
but yeah.
I think there's a way to get around that.
Yeah, you have to not.
Because the problem is these happen roughly every minute. But so does the dungeon. And who knows what's going on at any point in time. And you could get an intersect that wipes you out. And there's times where that happens and it feels designed. The twin Ogron boss in Heimel. I think it was an example of shifting boss timings that were designed to overlap in ways that presented a specific challenge to the player. That's not the case here. So I guess what they need is some form of overriding logic that controls the spawns, where yes, it is roughly whatever their intended time is. But if you were to imagine a timeline, right? Like a timeline, I don't know, a timeline. And on that timeline, you see all of the enemy casts. You would need a system that says, we don't cast our Orby thing whenever, and then the developers would flag what spells. Or maybe they would be able to flag a certain mob pack. And that would mean that, it's variable, and you gotta be on your toes. But it would be a way for them to cap the downside, because the downside is, and it's unique to this as compared to the Frenzied one, because the Frenzied one's just, they all get Frenzied, that's it.
No extra nameplates, literally just, you might want to change how you're approaching this slightly to not to a new mechanic, but to a new variable on existing mechanics. Whereas this one is, here's new mechanics layered on top. I guess that's the difference in the two.
It's the difference between getting in a car crash because you broke the rules of the road, and getting in a car crash because the traffic lights were wrong, and the traffic lights caused a collision by telling two cars they can go. And bad timing of that is a bit like the traffic lights having bad timing. And if we think about like principles of fairness and like what is a fair challenge to give a player, I think dealing with a particularly awful timing of that and a bad overlap, that doesn't feel like an intended design. Blizzard talk about how they want healing gameplay to be less reactive, less whack-a-mole, more managed, more controlled, maybe a bit more focusing on the efficiency gameplay, which, I mean, at least personally, that's been the thing in healing that I've always found to be cool. So you think about that principle, that doesn't run, or that principle, or this fails by that principle, because it can give you immediate, unplanned, but worse, unfair reactive gameplay. So they need to fix up that, but they can. You can make it feel less like bullshit and still allow for annoying timings by reducing the total number of them, but increasing their potency. You could do a slight redesign that maybe only has 2 or 3 of them, but instead of being an interrupt, they have a damage shield. But again, you can see ways where if you spend all your stops on these, you could get screwed by a mechanic. Well, if those were to appear, during a bad overlap, where you really can't afford to redirect your damage into the balls, then it just feels unfair. That's the design issue.
Yeah, I think that's obviously something they're aware of, because they're not idiots. They know this does this, and I think that's probably why they elected to test both of these different ones that are very obviously different. Because Ascendant obviously is that, and then Frenzied is obviously, as we said, it's like the rules are slightly changing. The rules aren't, you're not getting a wrench thrown in your face.
Yeah. It's
literally just, here's something is going to come and you should work around it in some capacity. So I think it is interesting. See, I kind of get you, Frankenberg, saying, see, that is a sort of good issue to have. Do you let the enemy have haste, or do you interrupt it and do the mechanic? Yeah, that, on paper, theoretically, that is an interesting choice. However, it's also really not.
That's the difference. It's a bit like, some military theory. If you want to really challenge your opponent, what you do is you present them with a dilemma. You don't present them with a problem, you present them with a dilemma, because then that sort of takes up their decision-making capacity, and the more that you throw decisions, the more likely they are to, trip up, fail, and then give you something you can exploit. But that's from a principle that is like more of a zero-sum game, and it's not about fun at all. The job of a game designer is not to, I think...
It's to give you a puzzle to solve, I think. I think making A or B decisions never really feels good.
Yeah, there's a tweet. I think it's from Candace, who used to work in the Warcraft team. I think she went to do Riot stuff under Ghostcrawler, and then I think she moved to another company. But she had this tweet of like, listen, whenever we're doing encounter design, we're designing the boss to be killed by you. We're designing him to... the boss is supposed to lose to you, but sort of lose convincingly. And that's the point. Yeah. So it's a puzzle to solve, and the boss loses convincingly. And that is different from purely challenging your player in that sort of way that I just spoke about the whole don't present your enemy with a direct problem, present them with a dilemma. So in the case of a game, it might be fun. Present the player with a problem to solve. They solve the problem, they move on to the next thing, they feel accomplished. Give them the dilemma of, do I get some haste, or do I put my interrupt where I think I need to put it, but then the enemy gets buffed? That ends up not being as fun. And the adage of game design being about, sort of asking, interesting challenges, problems for your players to solve, that's oft repeated, and rightly so, because it's interesting. But Sid Meier said that, and he was making the Civilization games. Those are different.
Very different games, yes.
Yeah, those are different. And I think actually in some points in the past with Warcraft, specifically, and many other games, they almost like, but a game is a series of, of interesting decisions. Not always. Not always.
No, I think it's very interesting how you see different games have those things where, like, obviously you think of like a roguelike or roguelite, I should say, and you've got something, you're picking between 2 or 3 options. Say you're even, say you're in Torghast for some reason, and you're picking between which of the buffs you want. That's a fun decision.
Yeah.
Where like you kind of go, do you want the really good thing or the sort of good thing? And there's a customization as to which is which.
And it's great because it's not as time sensitive. It is a little bit in Torghast, but like the whole point of you can really push that to the limits in a game like Civ, where you present your player with a truly like, oh my god, what the fuck do I do? How do I compute what the right move is? Or you like in chess or something. And yeah, in chess, give your enemy dilemmas, because then you want them to make a mistake that you then exploit. I guess it's just different in a real-time player punishment scenario, like Mythic Plus Dungeon.
Also in a group thing. A group thing as well.
Too,
I think the group thing makes it almost like more different. You could make that decision if you had like all of the answers yourself and you knew which way you were going to do. You're going to go, okay, well, if this boss is more haste, I know I have a solution to that. But you can't really make that determination. Say you're a DPS. How do you make that determination? Well, you don't, because you don't know if the tank's going to be able to survive it.
Yeah.
Whereas there's certain cases where you go, well, this is kind of weird, but like, say, all the orbs spawn. Now this is because they give you haste, okay. But I think you need 10 of the orbs to get haste, and you can let 10 go. No, I don't know. You can't dispel the haste buff the enemies get. No, it's a proper debuff, not a magic. So maybe there's a version where you go, okay, well the boss is at 10%. Orbs are coming in. We're really, and the tank goes, I'm good. Be it a Paladin with Ardent Defender or a Divine Shield or a BDK with Purgator or something going, it's good. I can get 10 orbs, we'll get the haste buff, just focus boss. You could maybe say that, but that's like a group decision, and those are very difficult to make in World of Warcraft. Very fun, because you can do that in Raid, where you expect a decent sort of group cohesion, but you can't expect that in Plus very much because of the I guess the model of doing loads and random
and in the Raid it's intricately designed and timed, whereas if it just happens roughly every minute, it's not intricately designed and timed, which means you can't punish the player as much, because the punishment or the challenge that you're trying to do is less tailored to the player's scenario, because it's just sort of happening on a timer. Whereas in a boss, that's tightly orchestrated for very good reason. And a lot of the time when bosses end up not being well orchestrated, Gargoyles, penultimate, before Denathrius, that was a great example, at least if memory serves, because that was in the old days. That was a perfect example of like, sometimes these timers, things would overlap in a way that was unfair, and it wasn't fun.
And it wasn't also intended, really.
Yeah.
That was the whole thing, where I think they maybe had pure implementation issues back then, where there's like, yeah, sorry, this boss is buggy, it's doing things a little bit. Sorry about that, whoops, our bad. Our bad, and they've been very, very clean with that recently, or at least mostly for the most cases, they've been very clean about having their bosses be, mostly linear, mostly on a timer.
So I think our feedback for this is very clear. Overall, I'm really happy with the change. At the very least, I think that this is a more healthy format going forward, and I like the way that under Xal'atath's Bargain, if something doesn't work, they can try something else, swap in a new one. If it's a new expansion or a new season, I'm kind of okay for some of those to be changed up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a thing where it kind of gives them relative freedom to no longer be kind of going, well, we need to design 1,000 new affixes. Things says, we can make like two more, shuffle them in, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, because it's really hard whenever you have the two pools of 4, whereas this is one pool of 4, and that really changes up the overlaps. And I guess it's like they get a lot of the benefits of seasonal affixes, not all of them. Like, was it the Prideful one that let you do interesting trash skips or whatever it was
Prideful called. And also Prideful was it spawned on a percentage based of the clear, so you could time when you hit the 20% mark to get the buff. There was also I can't remember what it was called, but it was the BFA season 4 one, the 8.3. The one where
Shadow Realm and do a trash skip, right?
You get different buffs from each bosses, and you could like go into the Narlotha to travel through between packs and skip that way, because that was the expansion where they're like, boys, I don't think we should have a rogue in every single group, but people people are skipping trash or Shroud of Concealment, so we need to put Shroud of Concealment into our affix. And they did it, and everyone went, that was sick. Awaken, that was a yes, Awaken. That was sick. Hang on, we just had Awaken season.
I guess the final thing I'll say in this, really quick point, it's just, it gives Zalatath a bit more exposure and like the player experience.
That was the thing I got super happy about when I saw like how they're doing this. Oh, Zalatath literally shows up in my dungeon and goes, she doesn't say anything in it yet, but I can imagine her going, haha, try this on for size, so-called champions. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, and there's something to be said for exposure. Blizzard, I think, learned a lot of the wrong lessons from the Lich King. And, you move to Cataclysm, you barely see Deathwing.
I don't know how they learned the lesson from Icecrown going, no, Icecrown was too sick, let's never do that again.
Insane. They're like, oh no, players, the Lich King's a Saturday morning cartoon villain with how he appears and goes, I'll get you next time. It didn't feel like that as a player. Because that existed within the backdrop of everything else in Northrend, and the other content paced your exposure to Lich King. In this case, it is pretty present. You'll see it a lot. I still think that's probably a positive, and we're coming off a bit of the story where Farak was
Who?
cool in cinematics.
Was he?
Or
for,
like
for some of them, yeah.
His portrayal was cool. Matt Mercer did a good job. But he didn't really, and it was the general problem of this expansion, it didn't feel narratively integrated. So I think like some of that exposure is good, and it might mean that, Mythic Plus player, maybe they don't care about the story, sure, but they know that boss in the next raid tier is the lady who throws shit at them in the Mythic Plus dungeons, in the same way that, her flippin' top boy is the 13th Delve boss.
Xerix?
Yeah.
Same way, no, not Xerix. Xerix is the one from the first zone. Sekfir.
I
feel
like we've had a few Zakfirs before.
I think it's just Nerubian names.
Yeah.
They really, really rely on ZX and V a lot. So there is a case where someone is, I can't remember what his name is, but there's someone whose name was a lot like Zakfir in the story. And I was like, hang on, is that the guy that is in the thing? No, it's not the guy in the Delph. Because, what? Oh, okay, I'm just confusing these names up. I'm still upset. I'm still so upset we lost Razageth so early. I liked her a lot more than Frack, and she actually had a presence. Yeah. Because we had Razageth in the story at the start of it. We had Razageth in the middle of the story whenever her and Alex fought. That was cool. And also Razageth annoyed the shit out of us every time we're in a dungeon because of Thundering.
She sure did.
And that's what actually worked.
I didn't like Thundering, to be clear, but
I thought Thundering was great, except for how it felt to play in all the affixes.
Thundering, Storming, But maybe if the other affixes weren't there, I'd be happy with Storming. And then you'd get all the benefits of Razageth being there in dungeons. So maybe it's just that all those other affixes added a level of cognitive load that just wasn't fun. And that meant that the Razageth Thundering just felt like too much. That's that topic. That topic. So we've talked about that. We've talked about the general health of World of Warcraft, where things are going. There are some other fun topics to dive into. Now, some of them we've covered in the regular WoW News episode, and I think one thing that we want to do to shift up the stream a little bit, to make it better, because there's times where maybe, I don't want to say it's like we drone on for too long and it just ends up not being as good a stream as we could do. But it does mean that because the WoW News happens usually on a Saturday, so you'll have actually very often a Friday. One of the reasons why we'd actually publish the WoW News on a Saturday is because we couldn't really publish it on the Friday, because that's when we were doing the stream, because straight up the channel would be giving two very similar thumbnails to people, and it was always awkward. And it was also it also really hurt our video performance if we put the live stream live on the channel. But we'll maybe investigate doing that properly so that the show gets out to more people. Of course, it is still public. It's the videos are unlisted, but they are in a playlist that you can find on our channel. But maybe we can put them public, and now that YouTube has improved their UI, where it won't clog up. Because the problem back in the day was live streams would clog up your channel, and they would actually have a negative impact on videos we could find. So we found it a little bit. Ludwig found it, and I have to assume he was really dealing with bigger sample sizes than us.
Somewhat.
But things have changed. It's no longer Susan. It's now Neil who runs YouTube. And they fixed up some of their UI. So, I think we should be able to bring a way better show, and we could maybe grow it a little bit more, because YouTube changes and having less crossover with the regular WoW news episodes mean we will feel a little bit more freed up to sort of dive into the topics that are fun rather than just sort of doing all the little bits of information, even when it may not make for a great show. With some housekeeping done then, I can see the page you've taken us to, and it is the fact that we have a new loading screen. Now, some would call it loading screen. It's more of a loading wall.
Yeah. So, here we go.
There it is. That's the loading screen.
Hang on, is that playing? It is, yes. Sorry, I had to check. That's a bit facetious. I can see the light glowing around the sides, but
I think there's several reasons why this fails. And one of them I haven't heard talked about as much, so it's the one I'll do first. And it's something that we'll...
Oh, was it the very first thing I noticed? Which is this?
Yep.
Yeah, it's...
And I have a feeling that both me and you will notice that because...
Because we're effectively UX and UI designers.
Thumbnails.
Yeah.
So, right. Your eye is drawn to detail and it's drawn to contrast. And that means, if you see a UI where there's loads of colors, they're all really bold, and there's loads of just lines intersecting, and your eyes just go, oh my god, dude, I can't latch onto anything. And that's why the best YouTube thumbnails are really clean and simple. Because they guide your eye through whatever they're trying to say naturally, and it doesn't sort of confuse you up. So there's like pretty basic design principles that they've really missed the mark on here. And it just is, you have these UI areas of email or phone number, that's funny, password, and just all of that UI. Underneath that UI, what do we have? We have points of brightness. We actually have...
behind, not underneath. Behind, which is the problem here.
Yeah, so the points of maximum contrast, which is what your eye is going to be pulled to. And I know some people may be like, you guys are just talking about nerd shit. Doesn't matter. It's cool. Here's the thing. Back in the day, I don't really know how they're done now, but the way that cameras would do their autofocus was contrast-based. The things that would be in focus would have very, defined contrast because they're perfectly in focus, so you can see the contrast. That's how they, calculate what is or is not in focus. So... that basically means if you just have lots of intersecting lines, lots of points of near maximum contrast, like the contrast ratios between your UI elements and their backdrop, this is just a total mess.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say it in as many words. I would say it as, why is all the shit in the middle here? Why is all the stuff? And obviously you go contrast and the brightness is what it is, because there's a lot of detail over here, but it's very dark. And it's not where your eye is drawn to. Your eye is drawn to this, which is where all this stuff is, which is a pain in the ass. But you look at the other ones, right? Because I've got this. You look at some of the others, and I'll look at the earlier ones. Look at this. There's a bit of stuff going on in here, but your login screen was framed by the big lads.
And contrast. Think about contrast. Where is the highest contrast here? It's kind of between the bright world to explore and the big dark portal.
Yeah, it is actually, the framing is the contrast. Because it's between these two.
It's well
you
put
kind
together.
of, yeah. And there's not that much detail here that's behind everything else. You're looking at this in the foreground. And that's the same you see every time. The dark portal just worked for that, right? It was, it was right here. They kind of, it was a little bit worse here because the login screen, the loading details were covering this wall a bit. But you had, ICC up here and you had Syndragosa over here.
As much as Login Dragon did people's head in. Yeah. It's cool as fuck. As was this.
Yeah. And this one, again, there's a spot in the middle where the framing of the box around was the Stormwind, what do you call those things? The top of a tower.
Those towers.
Yeah, what do you call the top of a tower?
Flipping, I don't know.
Yeah, I forget, but it's there's the square shape here with him over the top, right? Same with that. There's a little spot in the middle for it, so you're framed by this.
The dark portal is made by the big boys.
Yeah. Now this is a bit worse, I think. I like this login screen. It's a beautiful art, but the shape of that and the darkness did interrupt the contrast. I didn't like this one at all.
No, I didn't like
because
Legion.
What even is this? Who knows? But it was still.
It's just a random Legion portal.
But it still adhered to the principle of having your stuff in the middle. And here was the same, where I also didn't like this one, but it had these out to the side. Same here. Sort of same here. Contrast up here and here.
I thought the Dragonfly one was a little weak.
Yeah, and it's just this is literally the antithesis of like on design principles of how they've done all of their login screens
Yeah.
before, and I'm amazed that no one caught that when they were doing it.
Yep. This
Which-
is the
yeah.
like, you know, the way sometimes having an example of what to do is good,
Yeah.
but sometimes having an example of what not to do is even better. This honestly, like on its own like that, fine. Once the UI is there, this feels like an example of what not to do.
Exactly. Now there's a couple of different elements that could change this, this isn't actually on the beta yet. It could be different. This could be a very quick thing that then opens up, obviously, because people are thinking of the, what are called? People are thinking of like Hearthstone and the opening box. There could be something like that. This could like crumble in and give way to something which causes more of a lightning, like a lack of contrast right in the middle, more of a solid brightness, and that would be really cool. But it's generally like this is as it stands. You're like, man, this is very, very quite. This is quite weak, and I'm really surprised at the lack of, the fact that, because I'm assuming this is something that you would have multiple people sign off on because it's the first thing you see when you open the game. But clearly, unless they have plans, it kind of slipped through. Now, I will say that, yeah, I know a break from tradition isn't necessarily bad, but it's also kind of
It's
bad.
not the break from tradition that's
it's kind of bad.
The break from tradition isn't the problem. It is that it fails very, very foundational UI design principles.
Yeah,
and this is a piece of UI.
All of these, like not all of these were traditional, but they were traditional because they worked. And they all followed the same principle. It's not even there.
Yeah. Basically, the point is, if you have a form that your users are going to be filling in, if you have like text fields and stuff, you want that to be really clear and not be muddled. This just looks like massive visual mess. Okay. Now, if you wanted to do this perhaps in a better way, have that circle thing be shattered and a sort of void scape in the middle.
Yeah.
So that you have, quite a contrast. And instead of, as in the vanilla logo, you're going from the dark spooky place, you're going through the portal into the, the land of wonder with its epic mountains.
It's never made any sense.
This could be an inversion of that, that is selling the threat in the expansion, rather than just a hot wall, but worse, a hot wall that has just contrast that doesn't work, basically. So it's like, it fails in the vibes, but it also fails in the technicals.
Yeah, I also have something else to say, because I see people bringing about it in chat, and you're correct to say that, people only see it for like a second or two and it goes right to the Warband screen. The Warband screen does put effort in. All
doesn't
of those
make
things.
it better, though.
Well, for a start, it doesn't make it better, but also I think that, and this is something that, that's very logical. That's a very logical, correct thing to come to.
The way you do the small things is how you do everything. If you allow something to be subpar with the excuse that it isn't massive, that's understandable prioritization, but you need to still internally understand that it's bad, and you've let the bad thing ship pragmatically, not because it was good and ideally acceptable.
And that's not even my entire point. That's also true. But my entire problem is that this is the first thing you see. What's the first thing you see in any other game? Outside of, you don't count logos, right? Because, everyone sees I've been flashbanged by the Bandai Namco, and there's the FromSoft, and then you see Elden Ring, and you see the key art, and you see it's beautiful, and you see it's everything, right? So it's the first impressions actually do matter. And people are like, because I remember I posted this on Twitter and people were like very dismissive about it. And also because I tend to post quite formally when I'm talking about World of Warcraft stuff on Twitter, because if I post informally, people get mad at me for being dismissive. They were dismissive enough, like, it doesn't matter. But like, I think it matters way more than anyone lets on in really subtle ways that will really change the entire opinion, right? It's like, it's the screen. It's the first thing you see. You will anchor to the first thing you see. One of the reasons the login thing was, especially in login queues, by the way, if you're staring at it for ages, this is iconic because it was really fucking cool. And you open the game and you get that and you get the music and you're like, oh my God, this is sick as hell. And the same with like Syndra. It's like, oh my God, is that a fucking undead frost dragon? Holy shit, I get to fight that. What's going on? That's cool as hell. Same with Deathwing. They kind of lost some of the cool factor over time, but like those are things that are really, really obscenely strong. So like, I think this actually matters way more than I think anyone could really immediately into it, but that's just because
it doesn't sell the War Within.
Yeah,
look at the Cataclysm cinematic or the Cataclysm loading screen or login screen. That tells you in an instant everything you need to know. You know what's at stake. Stormwind. the world being ruined. You know, the villain is, there he is. Really effective storytelling. Tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, what's one of the most sets the tone for the expect half-assed? Yeah, a little bit. But now, what is one of the most iconic things about Capcom games?
I might be the wrong person to ask.
You've been playing one recently.
I mean, the thing with like Resi 4, it would be, well, at least for Resi 4 Remake, which is where I entered that, the level of polish everywhere.
No, I was actually fishing for a specific answer and you didn't get it.
Yeah, I have no idea.
It's the menu screen, the start screen.
Very simple.
And when you press the button, Resident Evil. Or Devil May Cry, where it's the same thing. You hit the button, you hear the gunshot, and it's Devil May Cry. Everyone loves them for that specifically. They're always like really, really cool. So like, yeah, I think that's a thing where this stuff matters more than I think.
I know what we need.
Yeah.
Whenever you hit the login button, you just have the rumbling growl of Chris Metzen saying, "World of Warcraft, the war within, brother."
Yeah. 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 Like I get that the launcher sort of skips the login screen, but it also doesn't. It doesn't skip the login screen.
That's my point. Naturally, because you see it.
Yeah.
But we do take the point that it is different to the past, where, you know, like absolute buffoons, we had to enter those manually.
Good times.
Back in a world where streamers would just accidentally show their email address to the whole world.
Okay, so what else would you want instead of this? This is where the hateful answer has to come in. Something better. Something fucking better.
Ashkahat, representing the most, you know, the deep, dark, spooky place.
Or the sword. People are saying the sword.
The sword to match the cinematic show. The sword, of course, shows great threat. It also shows a level of high fantasy that they're trying to achieve. You could go for Hallowfall, which gives you a mixture of wonder and fear.
And then you could animate Bellular shifting.
Yep.
Which would technically be a spoiler, but that doesn't matter because everyone knows.
I mean, it's like you could look at, say, like a Storm Forged Eternal in Warhammer Age of Sigmar, where in a way, you know, they're like, oh, maybe are they the good guys? I don't know, but like they're the good guys in a way where they look scary. I loved how Diablo portrays angels, right? Where some of the angels look as spooky as the demons. In how they animate, especially, like, as much as there's narrative criticisms of Diablo 3, I think a lot of the work that they did establishing what an angel looks like, how it moves, was really strong, and then that was carried into their work on Inarius, like, masterfully. There's the big cinematic towards the end is fucking stunning. So I think Hallowfall's Arathi sort of Empire people, they really hit that.
They really did, yeah. You go, these guys are good guys. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Astros.
I can tell you that. So the thing is, right? What info does that give me? How does it prime me for the experience? So in the case of, in the case of Vanilla and TBC, it was big fantasy adventure. In the case of Icecrown Citadel, you're like, this is the most desolate, grim place in the far north. This is the spooky place for us. You know, this is serious shit. It instantly tells you so many things. And it's got a direct through line from the cinematic. The only through line that this has from this expansion cinematic is the effect that is applied on the Azeroth globe as the World of Warcraft words animate in. You keep on going through them, right? Miss Pandaria, you look at the veil, and you're like, okay, what do I learn from this? It's beautiful. It's rather ancient. They look like they're sort of protecting it. Are they ancient guardians? What were these statues erected in honor of? Of course, it's from Big Mogu, so we can think about that.
And then they're actually in the middle of the zone, and you're like, that doesn't make any sense, but anyway.
And, that just keeps on applying. Warlords of Draenor, it gets to work because it's a throwback, so that's kind of fair. Legion's pretty mid. I would at least say in terms of narrative, BFA is actually better than the Legion one. Not as an expansion, but certainly...
it's not a portal, it sucks.
Yeah. So
literally, my whole thought is not a portal, it sucks.
What does it tell you?
This isn't a portal, it sucks. I like it, but it sucks.
What does it tell you? What does it tell you about the story, about the fantasy, about the adventure? And again, I say, the way you do the small things is how you do everything.
Shadowlands 1 says it's time to touch tips.
Well, there we go.
And then Dragonflight says
Even that.
rocks.
Yeah, but I look at that and I think, wow,
Big place, cool.
ancient grandeur, high fantasy. And certainly Dragonflight was going for high fantasy.
And also it sets the whole tone of the expansion.
Yeah, I mean, I look at that and I think, look at those grand aqueducts. Those could not be built by our people. And indeed, they were not. They were built by Titanforged. It makes sense. Mm-hmm. There's narrative, emotional context in those, as opposed to just a glowing wall.
Glowing wall.
Glowing wall.
But Michael, it represents the war within.
Yeah, but you could.
Azeroth.
Yeah, but you could represent it way better, couldn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they say
punch
like
himself.
this is the core way about to be busted in. But anyway,
Yeah, the core way is not a circle.
we've spent enough
Also,
time.
also, the core way doesn't even do what I thought it did.
I see.
No, the core way is supposed to go to the heart.
Yeah.
It goes to the ring and deeps.
Aye, but sure, you know.
What?
Look, it's important. It's important. That being said,
Yes.
I will say this is of interest to me because a lot of what I've been doing outside of video work has involved UI and UX design stuff. So it's, I don't know, it's like it's hit a timely topic for me. But also I acknowledge this is probably not what you're here for. So there are other very interesting stories.
No, this is important because this is the soul of World of Warcraft.
We will die upon this hill.
The soul is either there or not, and this means it's not okay. Just like the soul and care and love and attention is in fact with the Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail screen. Do you know why? Because it's bright for the first time since Realm Reborn. And you know what they don't do? They don't fucking flashbang you. What they have decided to do is they actually have the contrast really, really low when it opens.
I've just
I
brought a video up. I can see
so your
that.
screen is grey instead of white, so you don't get your eyes blasted into the back of your skull. What?
Why is it a Star Destroyer? You can see the flipping bridge. It's a Star Destroyer.
Yeah. Shh. Don't tell me.
Bam! Yoshi P's been watching too many of them films.
Matt, calm down. How dare you? I am extremely calm. My heart rate is nowhere near 90. Does it? No, it's probably been 70.
So, our next topic then, because there are other cool things to talk about, I think one visual one that we can bring to people is the new UI updates.
This actually blew my fucking mind when I saw it in game.
So you see, it's either so over or so back.
Yeah.
It's amazing or it's the worst.
Yeah.
And this is actually great.
Look at
And
this shit,
it's
like,
great in a way
look
that
at it.
the likes of us may not appreciate because we know this stuff like the back of our hand.
Well,
But
I don't know. I don't know any of
sure,
this shit. 'Cause it's all new.
In fairness, a lot of these are new.
Yeah.
But if you bring like a totally new player who doesn't understand the design system behind WoW's UI, they're going to be confused about things. They don't know what they mean. So our first big thing then is we have a legend for the map. You can see, man, that's what a world quest looks like now. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, it's fucking weird, but
That's
you
different. This
Yeah.
is a new era.
Yeah, and the best part is, I don't know if you have the pictures, but if you hover over those, oh yeah, look, you actually hover and explains what's going on.
Yeah.
A local story. It's not a side quest anymore. It's a local story.
Well,
Which
that's
is actually a really good name for them.
That is a great way. That's actually brilliant.
It is, yeah.
Because you see in the past, when every quest was just a quest and some of them were important, it would be sort of blurred. And I think people could, want a big, like, awesome narrative experience, but they just do a random little piddly side quest and they don't hit their expectations.
Yeah.
If you prime people by describing it as a local story, they go in with that in mind and they're then going to be more open to receiving it. Yeah. And that will actually mean that they'll appreciate the content more.
Yeah,
it's like how you subtly guide the player matters so much.
Which is really funny because if you show me these icons, would you like to do a campaign, important, legendary, meta, or local story quest? 9 times out of 10, the local story is going to be better.
Yeah.
That's for sure. That's one thing about the War Within that stays true.
There's another thing in this which, you could say that a lot of these things being different shapes is really awkward. And I do partially agree with that. However,
yes, that's true.
I agree with that from the perspective of...
Well, they're all in circles on the map, so... But yeah.
So, like, while I don't have the best vision in the world, I can see colors. Not everyone can see that, actually. And one of the things is you want your different icons to feel different, to be clearly different, multiple reasons. A great example is raid markers, because raid markers have a different color and shape. So regardless of the color, you know, I don't really know how like colorblind and stuff works, but basically if you struggle with certain colors, it's probably okay because you can learn the shapes.
Yeah, you should never say go to blue or red. You should say go to square and cross.
Now, obviously, there's a problem then when you're fighting the fire boss on a red floor and the boss is throwing fire at you and you got to dodge the fire. That can be fun. So yeah, we got that. What's also happened though is way more filtering options.
Oh yeah, the filters are really, really nice.
Yeah, so you can really, like, if you don't like dynamic flight, like races, just turn them off.
It was beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
You can clean up your map so good.
So that's really cool.
Same with pet battles. You can turn off pet battle world quests. That was a game changer for me.
It's a new game.
New game.
We're back.
New game, new life.
We're back again.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I do not think we need. No, we don't need this because it would make the stream worse. But if we were doing like the old school, you know, sort of, I'm imagining Jim Cramer of was it CNBC Money or whatever, where basically, imagine a man in a blue shirt getting progressively more sweaty as he makes very loud noises about the stock market and hits big buttons that make funny sounds. So it'd be like, oh, ExxonMobil did a whoops, wong. It's very cringe. What we need is each of us have a bumper. One of them is "It's so over." The other one is "We're so back."
I think it'd be better if we had little flags, like "It's over" and "We're so back."
But they need to have a webhook or something for when they're raised,
of course,
so that at the end of the stream we can count them up, and then we can work out: is it factually so over or so back? So there you go. The most innovative stream you've ever seen. Next thing then.
Actually, I will bring you to the teleport points.
Ooh, hello.
See, teleport points?
Yeah.
They were smart. You know the way flying around sucks?
Is that like little shortcuts and things?
Yep. So when you unlock them, you unlock shortcuts from Donegal all the way down to Ashkead. And they're little like tunnels that are like framed as your allies have made this tunnel for quick access, and you've unlocked it. You're there. So you find it and it's really cool. There's like an elevator around the island here that goes down to a point in the Ring and Deeps. It's way different from where the core way brings you. And same from Hallowfall or stuff. It's fantastic.
It's funny, like I remember I was
very smart, very good.
I decided I just wanted to like complete more of the map in Dragonflight, and I did the little teleport points you can unlock.
Yeah.
Which I have a feeling a lot of people didn't bother with that.
They were in kind of shitty locations, and the cooldown on them kind of blew, but using them for a while was really fun.
Yeah, like once I did appreciate them a little bit more because I unlocked them, I guess, with my character. I don't know.
Yeah, because they had the little, what was your fella? The dwarf
Thalen Dark Anvil.
Thalen Dark Anvil.
The man most known for his gracious letting of us, or granting us the tools to draw big cock and balls in the Warlords of Draenor intro scenario.
What a legend to go back.
So, I guess with those fiery cock and balls in your mind, we can move on to the new Evergreen Great Vault UI. Oh my god, it's a new game. We're so back.
Next, please. The fact that they have an Evergreen one instead of going, here's the one with the remake every expansion.
Dude, those mouse cursors are crispy.
They are crispy, yeah.
Oh, that's real crispy.
Yeah, we've got some resolution up on this bitch now.
Yeah. Oh my
Look at
god.
the enchant one.
Delicious.
See, now, if this game had soul, melee would get the sword and range would get that. And you'd be playing, you'd swap spec from like feral to thing and you get that instead.
Like an early 2000s RTS.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. Or this would be for wand users. If you've got a wand, it's that. And that's the only time you ever see it. It's a little bonus. But yeah.
Oh yeah, another cool thing. And this, showing us via tweet from Mezzy, which... Oh yeah, there's all the other ones.
Yep. These are very nice.
And you can see they're different by color and shape.
Yeah. Because they've got actual UI designers.
And that's good for, it's good for accessibility, but also often, so you can, I forget the name of the standards, but there are like standards for contrast ratios and different things between colors for the sake of readability and accessibility. And generally, whenever something I think is doing well by those accessibility guidelines, it's also just generally really clear and usable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like a, I don't know, good thing to follow. The next thing then, so our world events have got new icons. Previously, world events were all a little horn.
Because it was the Grand Hunt, and they just reused that for everyone. They're like, I'm going to go get some soup. Why is there a horn here? Okay, cool.
So now the world event things are different. And
I think there's some reuse still across them. Maybe that's just not updated for me entirely. Maybe it was an older build or something.
the bottom right. Bottom right. The wounds.
Oh no.
No.
I don't even know what one that is.
Magnate.
Is that the Severed Pact or is it something else? I haven't really done that many yet because I only hit 80 and then finished the story and then went, I'm fucking done. But yeah, very nice.
Another nice thing, your weekly
Oh,
quests show time remaining. And this may not be the biggest thing, and I imagine it happens to daily quests as well. But for a lot of people, they know when the servers might restart, but they may not be exactly sure when the quest stops. So it's just, it's not the biggest change in the world. But again, anytime a player alt-tabs out of your game to search a Wowhead guide or something like that to understand how something works, that is a failure because now they're no longer in the game.
And they're also ADHD and will go to Twitter and stop playing your game and browse Twitter.
That's actually...
Hasn't happened to me, haha. Haha. I'm normal.
That's a real point.
I know.
Yeah, shit.
I fucking know.
Yeah, I know. That's why you made it. But like, that's a real point.
I know. I know far too well.
Yeah, but I feel like most designers almost
There's like
second
monitor, it's fine. Second one's fine.
Oh no!
I'll have Wowhead up there.
Do you know what I'm thinking of now? Your boy Don Matrick.
Oh dear.
Do you remember when they were talking about how, like, you know, the Xbox One is the ultimate media console and how Microsoft wanted to pioneer a second screen experience on your phone? I've started being really disciplined with myself where wherever I listen to a video, I'm like, hang on a second. If someone put a gun to my head and said, repeat the contents of that video over the last few minutes, what were they talking about? I'd be like, I guess I'll die, because I have no idea. So I've started like purposely scrubbing back, and I'm like, almost like, you
doing flashcards for videos you're watching, mate?
It's not that, but it's just like, you've consumed but not appreciated that person's work. And that means that, you know, I remember it's the White Void Torture. It's George Lucas's second feature after American Graffiti THX, which is where, you know, if you go to a movie theater and you see THX sound and it makes like the noise, it's named I think Lucas is involved in that company, or was back in the day, and THX is named after his sci-fi project, which was a student film that he turned into a big thing. And of course, being sci-fi, it's doing a future thing, and it's trying to be a little bit more extreme. And you have these like weird, like desexualized, government controls, reproduction, and thought crimes. You know, the whole shebang. But the characters are like these oversensitized, desensitized, like just nothing controllable blob people that are given like weird masturbator devices to like just fucking numb them. And I suppose you think about the modern day and you think about how everything is like an attention assault. And I guess this is weird because what you just talked about was checking a quest in Wowhead and getting distracted on Twitter. But I don't know, there's something to be said about like active, purposeful consumption.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing where like I fall on the other side of that too often, where I'm like, I am too sleepy to enjoy this.
Oh yeah, it's why you'll have that movie that you know you really care about and want to watch. I can't remember. I was like, as an Expanse fan, it was like the final 2 episodes of the final season, and it took me like 4 weeks to watch them because I kept on being like, not feeling it, and I actually like this, so I'm not going to do it. But then all too often, the backlog grows and grows.
Yeah, and you'll also find that 5 minutes into something, you'll actually switch on and go, oh, I'm totally down for this.
Yeah.
I'm totally down for this, which is...
I always find that with like more indie films, where, you know, you're like, oh, this is going to be a big think time. Maybe I'm not ready for big think, but if it's good, you're just like, oh my God. Is this a small Korean family drama about being like an immigrant after the war? Oh! You know, you're like, you struggle to be... Minari's the movie I'm talking about, where it's like, in a way, I'm like, yeah, you know, sure. And then, you know, 10 minutes later, I'm finally sucked into it. But it's like, it's overcoming that like initial effort. And I think that's actually why a game like World of Warcraft can really struggle in today's market, because WoW is like a very intentional, long burn style of game. That's why I think delves are really important, because in the same way that people might just go and play a round of Fortnite because they hit the go button and they're immediately there and they know what they're going to get, WoW will struggle because people won't want to go into the pre-made group finder or wait for the LFR queue. I think delves are really positive there.
The ramp-up time to playing World of Warcraft is aggressive compared to any other video game. even like if I'm playing World of Warcraft now, I have to figure out what I'm doing. I have to log in. I have to like, oh, what are my talents set to? Oh, is my gear set to? What do I have to do? What am I doing? Who am I? What's my reps? What's my renowns? What world quest do I do? What's going on? For example, I have been not a big live World of Warcraft player recently, believe it or not, because there's fuck all to do. But except for Mop Remix, which I don't want to do. So it was it was the last day for the trading post last night. So I finished
Cock.
up. Yeah, you missed it. Yo. So I finished up some of the Dawn Trail MSQ, and I was like, I am defeated. I'm done. If I start this next quest, I'm here to 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Listen to that. I was like, I'll just spend an hour to this. I was like, I just flew around, did some stuff. I was like, man, I had to figure out what to do and think about it. And I tried to plan how to get all of my things. That was fine, but also like, man, that was tiring. Having to think for a brief second.
I guess there's a big difference. Way back in the day, World of
So
Warcraft.
bad.
World of Warcraft used to break your executive function. Nowadays, your broken executive function means you don't play World of Warcraft because the world around WoW has changed. It's really spooky, isn't it?
Yeah. World of Warcraft used to be like an 8-hour marathon of one incredible big adventure.
Yeah, it used
And
to
now
be.
everyone's like, sorry, is that an adventure taking more than 30 seconds? I don't think I can. I don't have the energy for it today. Which might just be the fact that, people are getting mentally assaulted by the entirety of existence. And also the fact that half of us are aging very poorly.
Uh-oh.
Very rapidly.
So, very related to that, Matt, we do have the city hub of Donegal, Matt.
Donegal,
Yep. I'm known for my
I
clean segues.
hate Donegal.
Oh, man, I really like it.
Let me explain to you why.
Okay, hit me.
Because there's a skywriting race through it. And this shit is too dense. This does not load nice. This does not load friendly. Hopefully it's just a beta thing. But
yeah.
I'm telling you, if you pick up, I think it's like around here, you pick it up and go up here around here, and you're like, I'm at 10 frames per second, let's go. And then you fly away and it deloads, you're like, back to 120, fantastic.
Yeah. Their game, some of the technical stuff in their game is behind how it can be pushed using dynamic flight, for sure. I've noticed that, like, the amount of times if you're going at maximum speed in Dragonflight, and it's
You're
jittery.
in the Azure span and you jitter, and then a branch spawns inside your model, and you're like, cool, I guess I'll stop.
Do you know what's funny with that? Playing my favorite pastime, bronze balling, picking up those flying bronze balls in Mop Remix, because it's the old world. My computer has absolutely zero problems loading any of that. So I actually get a really buttery smooth, like 240 hertz, buttery smooth flying experience that feels amazing in a way it never does in Dragonflight, because the game's, like, I guess, asset streaming, it struggles to keep up. I mean, it's not as bad as GTA 5 and an Xbox 360 hard drive.
Oh, GTA 4 was some crack. I remember playing GTA 4 was it PC I played it on, I think? And I remember my PC wasn't very good, and every time one of those ballasts, you're just driving, I'm going straight, I'm going full speed, and then ballast, didn't see that. Why did I not see it? Because it wasn't there. But still, Nico is now, now he's learned human flight, and off he goes into the road.
The flippin' demonic things that those engineers did in GTA 5 to get that game to stream on a hard drive is mad.
Impressive, yeah. Impressive. So realistically, I'm actually not that bothered. I think it's a very, very beautiful little city. I think it is absolutely gorgeous. It's wonderful.
It does a great
Even
job.
the Fisher's really cool.
See, I love the earthen architecture, but what I love with Donegal is, and I guess it's because of the people are like, fuck it, we're mortals, we're gonna have fun. The subsect of earthen.
The Unbound?
Yeah. I feel like some of that influence is just, there's flowers. It's nice. There's splashes of color.
There's that, and
it's
then
richly
that's
detailed.
actually mostly the phrase one.
Okay.
Been all like nature good and shit.
That makes sense.
So yeah, like, it's very pretty. The Forge Ground is a beautiful area. I love the multi-layeredness to it. Like, the Coreway is the Coreway. The Foundation Hall and stuff. So it's all very nice. The wee Fisher was like little, like, dark sort of rogue people and spooky boys and Madame Goya and people playing dice for money and looking all mean. And then that's where the Azure Head portal is as well when you unlock it. It's down the corner there, so you like fly out of it. It's very, very nice.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with the things that I've seen. It seems
I love this expansion, like, visually and set like that way. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it seems like as they've scaled up their team, they've got used to shipping quite a lot of zones. They've got their reps in, and what they make's pretty cool. Like usually, I don't care about kobolds, but some of the kobold places in the Ringing Deeps, you know where it's like super high density little kobold houses.
Oh, the Warrens, yeah.
Yeah, it's like wow, that's not something that I like normally give a shit about in aesthetic, but I really like it.
It's nice, yeah.
So yeah, that's cool. Matt, we have so for other topics, a few little things we should probably talk about in the stream. Some quickly, some less quickly. I think we should mention to people the NPC crafting orders being in though, because this is big. And you know the way you just said that, like, wow, these days is way like the time to actually go in and play some proper content in the single player context or even small group with delves. It's like radically quicker. Because as you were saying, like, tier 11 delve is going to kill you if you mess up, and you can go into that right away.
Oh, tier 11 delve will kill you for breathing, to be honest.
So looking at this with crafting, one of the things you might think, oh man, I just want to go do some crafting. But then you're like, oh, I gotta do the social. And that's like fine at endgame, because those are big chunky items that like matter to people, you know, like gear and stuff. Nobody's doing crafting orders for level up gear or things like that,
or
right?
for anything, because they just do personal orders.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the idea then that you have, the change is, right, NPCs will list crafting orders for you. It'll happen bi-weekly. And that basically means as you're leveling up, you can do these NPC orders. So this is great because it tutorializes the system for players. And they also get to kind of do some storytelling in it.
A very small amount, but
yeah, some NPCs will give you a really big commission, others won't. And that's not a massive part of a story, but it is a little bit of texture. And I think it's nice in a game like this where there are just little bits of texture everywhere.
Yeah, like you see this Vograd guy. Oh, like, yeah, I've got all the regions for most of this. I'm not giving you the regions for the Everforged Great Axe, asshole. But like all the regions, sweet, fantastic. Look at that. That's a good person. I like them. And then you go and say Aurelia wants to add like a Q4 charge claymore and not give me any regions. Fuck off, Steed Strike.
Yeah.
That's why she's such a good quartermaster, because she's fucking stingy.
So I'm going to blast through some of Blizz's justification here. So I'll go. Right. NPC crafting orders are personal orders that populate on a regular predetermined cadence. You may discover that some customers tend to be more willing to provide reagents to assist in the final craft than others. Certain customers are very picky, may only submit orders for specific items. Although all NPC crafting orders offer a small commission, some customers may offer unique bonus rewards for helping them out. Blizzard go on to say, other than bonus rewards, these are near identical to player ones. The recipes requested and reagents involved are ones you'll already be finding. You'll get skill ups, you'll get first craft rewards, and you can benefit from your profession stats. And they say this is the big bit for most people. NPC crafting orders is the underlined primary method for crafting progression to earn spec knowledge and artisans' acuity?
Acuity, yes.
Acuity. Oh yeah, that's how that's written.
Yes.
Long day. I ate ages ago. Yeah, I'm definitely at 110%. They go on to say, yes, each profession has an allotment of knowledge points they can earn in a week, which varies from profession to profession based on the size of their spec tree. And these are delivered through bi-weekly selections of orders, similarly scheduled to how world quests are. So that's basically the core of this system. Really good for players getting predictable gameplay. And they've also talked about how they can then use this system to give you personalized catch-up orders. One of the big problems of this expansion was just spec knowledge catch-up. You just be behind and you just eat that. So here they have a convenient way to get players up to speed a little bit quicker, but also in a way that is them using a mechanic that already exists rather than very overtly just giving you the big freebie in a new patch. And that does feel better to people. Now, they say there's known issues. People have talked about how the commission sizes are really small, even in cases where the NPC isn't giving you all the reagents, which means you might be casting it or crafting it at a loss.
Yeah, because like you look at some mostly means none from my looking at them. And it was very much, you're what do you mean 50 gold for this Claymore, Aurelia? Come on, sort yourself out, love. Sort yourself out, Jesus Christ. So there's a little bit of that. There's clearly like stuff they're working through. But it is, it is generally just, yeah, we're going to fix the fact that, basically crafting broke.
Yeah,
It sort of broke in a big way. It broke.
Lots of design benefits in the new system, and I think that an addition to that system like this will allow the system they designed for Dragonflight to actually shine. Because I think with Dragonflight, they designed an interesting system, and they had a hypothesis about players using that system consistently, but players didn't. So it didn't fulfill all of their goals, whereas I think this will help it fulfill their goals.
Yeah. So Frankenberg asks, why would you ever go to a person? These are limited, and they're for you, the crafter, not for you. They're not making you things, you're making things for them. So this is literally like, if you hop on, you're like, okay, I will hop in here, and I need to get this made, or I need to do the weekly quest of doing 2 of them. I will go and, I'll do these for practice. I'll do these because there's no personal orders, no public orders. I'll do that. Are they getting rid of Artisan's Metal? Artisan's Metal is now Artisan's Acuity, which I believe is more or less the same thing.
Yeah.
The other change, which obviously we've talked about before, is concentration, which is now this fixed resource that you build up over time and just spend it on your things with a button.
See, the problem with inspiration was it was realistic, and that's actually not fun. Because sometimes you're like, I actually want to play the game, and it's thrown to RNG. And, you having a really good shower thought, a moment of inspiration, it's a bit of RNG in that. Doesn't really work for a crafting system as well.
I'll especially struggle whenever people needed you to, can I have this in Q5? And they're like, maybe.
Q5?
Can I have this Q5? I will. Q5? I can make it at Q4 and I can see if it procs. And you're like, well, that's not helpful. You're like, whoops.
The way my brain went is like,
I know, yeah.
Yeah, like Matt has invented a special 5th quarter of the year, and he's probably done it because that's where you can play all of his Metroidvania games.
No, I've actually just split the year into 5. I've said to hell with seasons. It's now Q1. It's now Quintet. It will be finished by Quintet 5 of this year, sir.
A lot of people swear by the notion of the 12-week year.
Yeah, and those people can shut the fuck up and leave.
I like it.
Leave the planet.
I like it. You.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. Look at that. Nature? Nah, fuck the seasons. Who gives a shit about nature or the sun or the planet? What if we just have time adhere to us alone? The hubris of man will be their downfall.
I'm very sure they're silly sausages if they do that at the expense of everything. I mean, it's not like they're replacing the Julian no, we don't use the Julian calendar. The Gregorian calendar? Yeah, Gregorian calendar, I think.
Yeah.
I've got really good energy level, but I have had a day where like the sheer number of words and concepts that have zoomed through my brain does mean I need to sit down and play some World Quest to calm down.
Yeah.
So that is, I think, really good, and they've increased the usability overall of the system. That should hopefully increase how many people feel like it's interesting to play. And given that this is a super alt-friendly expansion, you could totally see players, because they have a dependable source of these orders, actually just playing loads of crafters, because this is more of a dependable form of gameplay rather than, I've got to go and find someone to do these orders for, or just randomly craft shit. So I think that stuff's positive and pretty good. Other things to talk about, Matt. I mean, there's some little changes. They've made Honor a warbound currency. It's got a 20% tax. I think that's the main thing from that.
Yeah, that's going to be huge for people.
Yeah, I understand the tax because it is player power. But what it does mean is all that spare honor that you might have from playing your main, you can just transfer that to an alt, and you will not be turned into paste immediately because of how PvP gear works.
Fantastic.
Other things, WoW's back in China. There's not too much else to say
Soon
other than...
Well, it is Wrath Classicus.
A few million, maybe? Big country.
Possibly.
Quite a few people.
It depends on how many people come back versus how many people are like broken forever by it. But I imagine, like, the amount of time it's been gone, people will be like, I'm hungry to see a whole expansion, also get the new one where Metzen's back.
And they're trying to roll out the carpet with,
they are.
XP boosts and stuff. They're doing an accelerated Wrath Classic and I think they're doing Dragonflight in a month.
They are. Well, they're
There's some crazy shit.
They're accelerating Wrath Classic with, I think, multiple phases. But with Dragonflight, it's just, this is War Within pre-patch with super speed 60 to 70. Yeah. So they won't be able to do any Dragonflight content in the way we experienced it, but it will be Dragonflight content in the pre-patch sense. You can go run over for the crack.
It's unfortunate, but it's also pragmatic. The thing that is interesting, though, is in order to sort of accelerate their raiding scene back into gear, NetEase have put up a 1 million yuan reward for Race to World First. But it's not Race to Chinese First, it's Race to World First. And they're going to increase the reward. So basically that's about 137 grand US. They're going to be adding 27 grand US. Every tier a Chinese guild doesn't get World First. Mm-hmm. And this is the same competition with Liquid and Method and Echo. So that basically means you could get to a stage where, after a few tiers, that prize pool is like really big. I mean, the thing is, because of the amount of time and the dedication that it takes, and because your chances of actually winning that prize are low
or slim, slim.
It's a fun reward to spice it up, but it's not like somebody's going to be going mad to get it. I remember people talking about the MDI and saying, like, listen, if I was second in the MDI, given what it takes to achieve that, I would, calculating your prize winnings from being second and then turning that into dollars per hour, and I'm pretty sure it was like under minimum wage, which I suppose is to say that this isn't like, I don't know, Pro Valorant or League of Legends, and these are more existing as a fun thing to spice it up. I cannot, however, see Blizzard officially do a Race to World First. Why did I say that? Okay, it's not normal, but actually, you know what? No, Bungie do make it official too. Bungie do it official. Fuck it, Blizzard might.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Bungie even have the thing where you can only buy a jacket if you clear the raid.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah. If I could go back in time and also invent more time, I'd definitely love to actually play Destiny properly.
Its raids
where was
are
there?
So good. The Destiny raids are incredible. I think both me and Matt have that problem of, it turned into do your weekly big bounties and stuff, and we didn't really enjoy that. But the one time we ventured into a Destiny raid with friends, we were blown away. Like, as WoW players, we were blown away. And I think it just turned out that the granularity, the first person perspective, that meant they could create new design challenges, which I suppose were extra cool for us because we were playing a raid. We know what raids are in WoW, and we're playing the different contexts. It seemed really cool.
Yeah, I was just looking to see the Amirdrasil had Hogo Hero in 5th and Ji Chan Hong, but I don't know is Ji Chan Hong Taiwanese? I don't remember. I know there's like a Korean guild in there, mate, as well. I don't remember if any of the rest are Chinese, but there's definitely a few Chinese in like the top. There was Aster until they disbanded after that whole thing after Sepulchre. They became Chinese second in Sepulchre, and they all had massive fallout and disbanded. That was fun. So that'll be interesting to see if that actually does anything. I know people were just joking about should Echo or Liquid just re-roll to China to pick up the thing, but no, they would have to do it both at the same time because I believe they usually start a little bit later in China, which obviously impacts it. And also, you'd have to do all of the things that make yourself legible for that, which they probably couldn't be bothered doing. It would impact their chance to win. But yeah, that's it. They're also getting no mop remix. They're maybe getting Plunderstorm in the future. I know Wohead said it's unclear when that'll be or whether it'll be exclusive to the Chinese region or it'll return in other regions too. I think that might just be hopeful reading in.
We'll see, yeah.
Hard to know, but yes. That's the World of Warcraft is probably going to start making a whole shit ton more money very, very soon, which is good for the game.
It is, yeah.
Unless NetEase take all the profits, in which case it's fine for people who like NetEase games, which I don't play any NetEase games a minute, so I'm okay. Give the money to Nexon instead, thank you. Or Hoyo, please. Please, Sentinel Zone Zero's out in a few days. I'm smiling.
Dude, you're in a dangerous time, man.
I really am.
Just looking at, because I recorded our video on just the most notable releases of the month.
Chinese supremacy, boys. Chinese supremacy.
I get my Western strategy games. I'm a happy boy.
To be
That
fair,
being
it's-
said, Dyson Sphere program, I believe that is a Chinese developer, and
Sounds like
it
it.
is a wildly successful video game and very cool. Interesting stuff. God, it's a good time for us, our sort of strategy boomers, though. I'll publish the video after the stream. Right, and I suppose speaking of that, we're kind of drawing things to a close. A few things on the horizon, a few notes, and perhaps we could get some impressions on Dawntrail, because I know people will care about that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think almost all classes have had their big changes. Blizzard have posted about shamans, saying that they've got a lot of feedback and they've been working on stuff and they will have the majority ready to test. So this is basically
Tomorrow.
they have announced that something will happen.
We have shaman changes. They are coming, please.
Do you know what, man? Was it recently people talking about enhancement being really good?
Enhancement's really good. It's one of the things.
So,
Like
hell yeah.
I know there are some issues, like generally speaking, with their class tree specifically. I know there's some stuff with the, like, just moving into the War Within and some hero talent stuff, but generally shamans are generally in a good spot. I know Elemental's having some problems recently, but like grand scheme, I think shaman's a really good place.
I think great potential here, and
Yeah, yeah. If they get changes that are half as good as other classes have gotten, then I would almost consider shaman for not main, because I can never main not a paladin or not a druid because I've got brain damage, but certainly like I would love to play more shaman.
it's one of the classes where I think Blizzard have, and really have since Legion, nailed the fantasy.
They've nailed the fantasy outside of people still wanting two-handed Windfury,
I get that, yeah.
but been able to continually iterate on the fantasy that works to the point where they have multiple builds that are like different and fantastical, and you can play either build roughly within a couple percentage damage points.
That's crazy.
It's nuts, yeah. Like watching enhancement and the physical versus elemental build keep kind of going, well, this one's technically better, but they're close enough. They're close enough you can play whatever as long as you can play them both correctly. And it kind of depends on your gear and stuff like that, what you have access to. Is really good that they've never forced them into one or the other, which is really fun. Like, I love Casino Deeply Rooted Elements. We're just chilling, pressing Storm Strike, and then you'll press Storm Strike, Ascendance will proc, and then you'll just fire out Storm Strikes and destroy everyone. It's really fun, really good. It's really, really fun.
Oh man, I'm so happy. Because one of the great features of our stream, especially in the days of pre-patch 9.1, was a good old angry gamer segment.
What's happened?
You know, gamers, they are angry. And unfortunately,
Not
Matt,
me.
we are also gamers. And that means we have to be angry. We'll got to talk about the trading post. Because there is high drama in the trading post. Just in the fantasy thing, my milestone, that is just, I remember filming, because they did the animation revamp stuff, just filming B-roll for Shaman with like the sound effects on, even in Legion, that like just astoundingly good work. You know, whenever you use Storm Crash and just the sound effects are, it's like, that's one of the areas where like a WoW Shaman really felt like a WoW Shaman. That's
They're
been cool to
very
me.
good. Tempest is a little bit their new Tempest thing, their new lightning bolt replacer from the hero talent tree is a little bit underwhelming, but it's still like, it sounds different and all their lightning stuff's great. Nothing beats chain lightning.
The difference between the traditional Shaman and the Warcraft Shaman, I think, encapsulates what Warcraft stands for. Because often when you think of Shaman, you know, it's like,
You think kind of
or
like
Village Elder.
like a nice witch doctor
Yeah.
is what you imagine.
Whereas, and you know, who perhaps is in touch with the elements or, you know, sort of the spirits of nature, shall we say. Not something I really went deep into, but given our region in the world, maybe I should learn about the druids, the old IRL ones. But no,
I've got a book on the spiritual wisdom of the Celts I can lend you.
yo, let's go. So you have your traditional shaman, just making little pastes,
Beads and
talking
stuff.
beads.
Go
I
on.
mean, in WoW, there's beads, but they're big.
Go on, here's your ayahuasca. Try not to quit your job and become
They
a
will
pole dancer or something.
Stretch you out, son. It's a bit too much.
Jesus. Lord weapon.
So you go from, you know, the old wise village sage to that art of Thrall with his big lightning hammer and, you know, storm, earth, and fire, and it feels awesome.
Yeah, literally
so
just like I've got in one hand I have a mace. In my other hand I've got a mace made entirely out of lightning. Bang.
it's like more than a WoW paladin tells me what WoW is. Because it doesn't really, like, it's really well executed, but you sort of know what a paladin is.
Yeah.
But a WoW shaman and how that's different to a lot of stories with shamans, it's like totally, I don't know, it fits the universe perfectly, and it probably also is reinforced by, like, medicine over there.
So there you go.
As the thrall.
The class that is World of Warcraft, or the spec, is Enhancement Shaman. You heard it here first.
Green Jesus.
You're also correct.
Green Jesus.
Yeah.
Green Jesus / Superman, basically.
More or less, yeah. More or less. Except I'm sure Superman doesn't quite have as many.
Well, that was flipping Madan.
Oh, yeah.
He was, yeah.
Thank God.
Still, one of my favorite jokes was how Warcraft Chronicle doesn't have 404 pages, but in the index of the book, it says Madan, page 404. Of course, internet joke. I really like they put that in. But Matt, it is
That's
time.
me, apparently.
Your bull semen dust,
My what?
we're thinking about, manly things, your ultra male vitality plus, you're going to knock 10 yerba mates, take a whole bunch of pre-workout. We're all going to get amped up because it's time to be angry. Because, Matt, the people are being fleeced. They are being fleeced in the streets, Matt.
Fleeced like sheep, or fleeced like, I don't know.
They're being fleeced like sheep, which means that they're cold, and then they're being robbed so they can't buy a coat, and that means they'll die. Blizzard is killing people while they're doing the trading post. Now, I'm not trying to be disingenuous. I just, hey,
You just are being.
yeah, whoops. It's the internet. We're gonna be all this is shrinkflation, and may as well.
Oh, midnight confirmed.
One may as well lean into it and get weird with it. So. Shrinkflation, the trading post, it's been a topic. One of the things that was notable with the trading post in the first 6 months is that's some pretty nice stuff.
Some lovely stuff.
That's pretty big rewards.
Fantastic.
Big rewards for completing your log. And what's kind of progressively happened more and more is they give you pets.
Pet. By the mount, you get the pet.
Yes, the mount costs gold.
It was a real struggle for me to bother to finish mine yesterday because I finished it late. I literally did it because I might as well. I'm doing nothing else. But if it was anything else, if it was if not for the small handful of tenders, the actual reward was like the fucking blaster water pistol toy. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. To be fair, I'm also somebody who doesn't care about cosmetics very much unless they're extremely cool. Like, if it's like, here's a fucking mount, I'm like, I don't give a shit.
Well, a lot of people are talking about this, though, and they felt it for a while. And, so basically what's happened is, again, we are just getting really less and less and less value, it seems, especially in terms of how they price things themselves. Now, it's also pointed out here by the illustrious crafter of documents for our stream, Mr. Dakor, that it's very concerning. Bold, Matt. It's bold and it's underlined. This is, you best get ready.
Concerning ...
Yep. You need to find your spiritual leaders, your local political leaders, and write to them because this is very concerning.
Someone is looking at this.
They're selling in, so it's at multiple fronts. So we used to get mounts, mogs, big sets of weapons for our monthlies, and now we get pets. Less cool. We used to get ensembles. Now the ensembles are being sold to us in pieces, ultimately for a higher price.
Billion trading post pieces a piece.
1 billion pieces.
Tenders a piece, sorry.
It's pretty clear people don't want pet rewards. I don't want pet rewards. I know that for some people they do, and they like battle pets.
Take all my pets away from me, please.
And that's fine. But
can I sell my pets to you for 1 copper a piece?
battle pets are a niche part of WoW.
Yes.
So I think they should be in the trading post, but I think that the monthly rewards, by and large, should be applicable to most of the player base. So
that's self-evident, realistically.
Yeah, it should be. Now, there is certainly speculation here,
Speculation.
Are Blizzard setting up for a scenario where players beg them to add purchasable tenders because the prices have got out of hand?
That is conspiratorial nonsense. and also true.
That's the yep.
Yeah, because yes, obviously they're setting up that scenario. Are they setting that scenario up intentionally?
Thank you, Seagull.
I hate seagulls. I can't wait for the day one comes close enough for me to grab its beak. And then
I respect them.
Anyways.
I respect them. They don't.
I can't.
Seagulls don't let anyone shit talk them. They're seagulls. They're proud. And they're going to get what they want.
I literally shout "fuck you" out my window at seagulls all the time.
There's times,
and they haven't attacked me yet.
So for local reasons, the proximity of where proximity to an orange hall of a certain abode is amusing. And the best part of that is at the very top of the orange hall, there is a little perch. It's got room for one bird. And you will just see the seagulls. I don't know if, like, for them, the orange hall is basically like a Pokemon gym. Probably. And it's Pokemon Go, and the seagulls are just battling for who gets to control the orange order. Oh my god, Matt. The seagulls control the orange order. Next time the noise of a parade does your head in, it's the seagulls.
Yeah. Matt, what have seagulls done to you? They have literally been very loud at all hours of the morning, right above my window. That is what they've done. They also, like, attack people for their food. They're
go-getting hustlers.
Half of like Belfast Main Street is just seagulls because they know that people who are drunk will spill their McDonald's.
Yeah.
So
now,
it's just seagulls everywhere. And
I must
want
point out that that's our fault and they're scavenging because we act like total savages.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm not personally responsible.
True.
And they are personally responsible for annoying me.
Well,
so if one flies within range of me, I will snap at them.
You moved into a perchable apartment.
That is true. You love waking up to the sound of seagulls. Yeah, I bet you love waking up to the sound of seagulls. I bet you wake up in the morning as well. I bet you go to bed at night as well. Fucking.
His schedule's reasonable, and he's in harmony with the seagulls.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if we were in harmony with the seagulls?
They go unstoppable. They go mad outside my window at 3 a.m.
So, just to continue, initially,
yes.
It seems that they put a back piece up for 800 tenders, which is a lot. That's a lot. They dropped the price to 500, which is good, and
300.
Sorry, 300. Yeah, and as the prices are going up, as has been carefully and representatively gathered from social media.
Of course, yes. We have interviewed all of these people on their political standing.
We have conducted a vox pop, and as we all know, those are the highest form of journalism, and they always tell the truth. So, look, you're completely right to look at this and think, you're just waiting for the moment, aren't you?
Inflation.
I'll say.
They're trying to sell more War Within pre-order bundles.
It used to be a more exciting feature to me. Like earlier on when there was cooler stuff on it, I would be like, oh, hell yeah, cool. I want to know what the tender is, and I don't really feel that as much anymore. Now, there are some other things. Maybe they have leaked some August things with a Corcoran Warsaber and a Sentinel Warwolf being just at the stables near the post. I think the Sentinel Warwolf looks awesome. The question is, will the Sentinel's War Cub be the monthly reward, and the Warwolf will cost? Actually, Matt, I was thinking we maybe price it at 700 because it's a wolf with armor, but you know what? You never see a Sentinel wolf, so I think that's worth at least 1,025 tender.
They're entirely new. That's because they don't make any fucking sense.
Double value?
They literally don't make any sense whatsoever. Show me where the Sentinels tamed a wolf.
So you know the way you said finally a mount reward? Yeah. So Grox said that to Portergage, and then Portergage replied, no. I don't know how he has seen the August. Well, I guess he's seen the August reward, and apparently the August reward is a back piece.
I didn't know Portergage existed in the future. That explains.
That's why WoW had hired him.
That explains surprisingly little.
Yeah, imagine if your man in the field was your man in the future. That'd be crazy. It's a pretty rough reward. And I guess we bring this up because Blizzard, this used to be an opportunity to surprise and delight your players. I shall be gracious and nice and say that maybe, just maybe, they are saving up the big cool things for the war within. The problem is, as soon as those words came out of my mouth, I remembered that we just looked at the August rewards, and August is when the war within comes out.
Yeah.
So, you know what, Blizz? I really think it would be lame if you celebrated the release month of your expansion by giving people a weird little back piece as their monthly reward.
They have ruined a good thing.
Ruined a good thing?
Letting it slip and slide away. It's so over. We'd press the "it's so over" button now.
Yeah, and now, in comparison to the past, the total spend here is 6,280, which is not the most. It's been higher before.
Yeah, that's fine. Everyone has access to 6,280. Traders tender every month, no problem.
Okay,
sat here with like 500, like a fucking rube.
Dude, I've got like
a rube.
I think I have 6,000.
Yeah, that's because I like stuff. I'm like, I want to like this wee thing. So I feel like I've been conservative every month.
You know what?
I'm conservative every month, Michael.
I
am in austerity measures, and I'm still poor. Fucking make it make sense.
Well,
I need Gibbs.
If you sort that out, you should really tell Mr. Starmer because he's in this funny position where he's like, we really need to grow the economy, but we can't actually invest any money in things. So,
pull yourself up.
We have a vision for hope and change and growth. That's the story.
Bootstraps, Mr. Starmer. Just pull some magic bootstraps out of your magic fucking politic hat.
I mean, if they go and deregulate a bunch of building code, then it's probably going to help.
Deregulate building code, Michael. Do you not think there's enough deaths?
No, that's one of the problems in the UK, why our housing stock is awful, and why, I saw some amazing stats where it's like, for the price to do a consultancy appraisal for like a tunnel somewhere in the UK, it ended up costing the government like about the same amount of money as it. And I know purchase power parity is different, but as for the Indians to, I think, put a probe on the moon.
I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting that.
Like, I know that people, obviously the Germans get ripped on for having loads of bureaucracy, and if you want a really good story, look at the process of building Berlin-Brandenburg Airport, where I was like, my great-grandfather was the draftsman who came up with that plan, and now 800 years later, we have made the airport. That's what we're like. So I don't know. Anyway, this is not a politics podcast, though. To be honest, that would be really fun to do. But
no, it wouldn't. It'd be fucking horrible.
It'd be fun for me.
All of our viewers would be insane. Also, it wouldn't be fun for me because I'd be sat here and like, but why can't I just be good? Why can't I just be good?
Yeah, we'd all be like,
Well, there's very important things you really must understand about the letter of the law, and I'm like, but why can't it just work? Why can't I just go to a land and buy a house, build a house?
We just cut from like me.
Why am I not allowed to walk into the forest?
We cut from like, me talking about like, the policy and this is why it's not workable, to just you catatonic, just like, ah!
It's like, excuse me, sir, why can't I just do the thing that I would like to do, please? It's like, why can't I kill the seagull? Like, they're protected. They're actually protected, you're like, why can I not?
But they are.
Why can I
Seagulls
not?
are really rare. The common gull.
Are they rare? Fucking, there's I'll show you 1,000 of them outside my house every day.
But you know what's crazy? You know the common gull? Did you know that it was called the common gull because it was common?
Aye.
It is, in fact, no longer common.
Thank fuck. We need a handful of them in zoos just so I can go and point and laugh at them. That's it. I need one seagull exhibit in the Belfast Zoo so I can go and say, fucking all your mates are dead.
Do you know the best thing is? Whenever you are guilty of high crimes because you went on a seagull-related massacre, some poor barrister will have to watch all of our streams to find the evidence.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of it. There'll be plenty of it. Uncommon gull, the fucking legendary gull, and I'll be the last one to claim it. I'll make that shit unique equipped, I tell you.
I make it good, it's like a John Wick movie, Buzz you and the gulls.
I don't actually hate them that much. I just really don't like them.
So actually, you see this? I'm just looking at the chart here. The table. Got there eventually. The Copper's diving set.
Yeah.
I mean, number one, it's weird.
860 for a set's a bit fucking...
It's a bit much. I feel like 650, 700 for the ensemble's the way to go.
Especially because the ensemble's 800.
I mean, whenever
If
Blizzard...
the ensemble's 800, why is the
Liz,
solo
bro,
860?
you're selling the wrist seal for 10 tender. What are you doing? That's like selling the glove by the finger.
It really is, like... It really is.
That's goofy. Don't do the goofy
And they did the
things.
same with the... What's it called? The swimsuit from this month or last month. And I'm like, why? I like the colour that's not an ensemble. I guess I can just go and,
Yeah. So here's the deal. We have in fact,
Fiverr.
dear viewers,
Taking the piss.
of course we've done that, but we've also, I think, mostly covered our stream topics. And the cool thing, everyone, about Monday stream is, the thing I'm going to end on is a little bit of a preview of our kind of upcoming video schedule and stuff. Should also say, by the way, if you want to check them out, they've done previews for the World of Warcraft tarot deck, and it looks really cool. They've also shown off
Except for the fact they're all terrible picks.
Oh, I love the tarot style.
Picks, not pictures. Picks is in PICKS. The tar sword? Karazhan, bro? Are you smoking crack?
Oh, you're right, yeah.
Have you, in fact, slipped and fell on a crack pipe, like?
Yep.
What's going on? The Emperor, Malfurion, he's the Emperor of fuck all.
It's just like that guy from, was it Serbia? He slipped and fell in the bottle, went up his butt, created a minor international incident.
Yeah, definitely.
He's like, I slipped in that bottle. I didn't put it up there. No, sir.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
The Emperor and his Malfurion.
I dig him as a Hierophant. I think that. But I don't dig him as the Emperor. He's the Emperor of fucking nothing.
So to move on to our next thing, Matt, and it is, while exploring Azeroth has maybe not been of the most consistent quality,
it has been large and by far wank.
I'll certainly say that is a gorgeous collection.
Very, very... No, he's the Emperor because he has no clothes because he's a naturalist. Got it. Yes. Yeah, it's very nice. I like it. But it's also devoid of any character and also full of inaccuracies.
Well, there's the world map plus collectible pin as our
the world map
thing.
that will be irrelevant in one expansion. Thank you.
Of course. I mean,
that's actually something that does bug me about this.
Yeah, it's weird.
World map, and then you open the game and press M, and you're like, that's fucking different.
Was Eastern Kingdoms the best one?
I think
it was.
I think it was the only one that wasn't completely full of shit. Yes. I'm exaggerating.
Once again,
I actually know.
We're either so back or it's so over. There's nothing in between.
Yeah.
I guess I'll say props to the product designers who put that together. I think that's a really beautiful piece of work. So that's
hang on. That's
cool.
I can't believe I'm going to be this person. Look at that, the complete collection. Look at the state of it.
Yeah.
The ribbon it's in is on this little arc, and that's just straight.
Yeah.
It's not matched on the distance to the left or the right, and it's not even the way it goes down there.
Shippable. But you know what this does, Matt? Eastern exploring Kalimdor. You know the way people really hated how it sort of turned Gazlo into a big money man?
It did, yeah. Oh yeah, and then they reversed that entirely for just out of the crack.
That's a character arc. It's time to go Angry Gamer again. If you want to enjoy the character arcs of the War Within, you have got to buy the entire collector's edition set with collectible map and pin so that you can read the hated passage in which Gazlo is a big prick.
Oh yeah, you're right. The includes world map and pin doesn't match that arc of that either.
Bruh,
it's a little bit sharper.
Dang.
Yeah, man, it's rotated wrong, man.
It could be a mock-up.
It could be a mock-up.
I mean, certainly looking at it.
Yeah, it certainly is a mock-up because this is just the wrong aspect ratio.
That'd do it. It's a mock-up.
Yeah.
Right. Ending things then.
Really
Matt is going to do a few words on Dawn Trail.
Okay.
or a few quick, do it first. A few quick words,
yeah.
and then I'll finish this off by letting everybody know what we've got planned for this week.
All right, sweet. So I'm not going to say any spoilers with Dawn Trail, but I will address one particular thing that I think is interesting, which is, let me do this live, steampowered.com. Can I type? I cannot type very well. My fingers are fucked. I've ruined them. I've not logged in. That's good. You won't see what I own, which is very helpful for me. Let's see. Let's see if I just bring a little zoom up. What's Dawn Trail? Dawn Trail is the Final Fantasy 14 expansion that just launched. Oh, sorry. Just hit early access a couple days ago. It is launching tomorrow.
An experience that we WoW players will be familiar with soon.
Yes. So where am I at here? I am here. If I go to browser, is this going to work? It is, in fact. So this is Dawn Trail, and let me just pause that. Look at this. 59%. Oh, it's gotten slightly better. Fantastic.
It's over.
59% positive, 735. That's only 735, right?
No.
So this is very small.
No, this is...
And yeah, so I'm not going to go and see the reviews because they may contain spoilers. But I will say that the problem people are largely having is with it is not Endwalker. And it's not Shadowbringers because it's new. There were some technical issues on Xbox that were a problem. You may have seen this if you read today's loading screen.
Oh my god, I can't believe once again Phil Spencer has lied and deceived us.
Yeah, so Xbox has
Tut.
exploded. Yeah, I see. I can't.
And they've all left negative reviews in Steam.
Yeah, so
the damn Xboxers.
So this isn't here. Dawn Trail must be their Shadowlands. It is not even that close, and I think anyone who's saying that is completely what brothers had Vivaldi.
I guess it's not destructive.
It's also not even that bad. Everyone who's posted a negative review of the story is at least halfway through. Because if they were any more than halfway through, they'd have shut their fucking mouths anyway. So
that's the thing that I thought was really, really interesting when you were when we were having a bit of a chat earlier, because you talked about Endwalker, and there was things that Endwalker got away with that it could only get away with because it was Endwalker.
Yeah,
and for some people, the pacing that you were referring to when you said that, they actually didn't like. Whereas I was okay with the slower pacing of stuff at times in Endwalker because I was like really invested in the story and I wanted all the detail. But it does seem, and I guess we also have an interesting thing in games where something is a big success and maybe lessons are learned from that don't apply to the next thing they're doing. So I guess now that I've teed you up with that, how is it?
Yes. So I personally I spent a lot of Saturday going, fucking hell, why is this so unbelievably slow? Jesus Christ. Let me do anything, please, God.
Start of Stormblood slow or slower?
Probably
like Stormblood was
slower.
slower than Stormblood.
Yeah, so it's really slow. Everything in it is really good. Outside of a couple different things where the writers clearly fucking fell asleep at the wheel, which is for a very brief period of time, and most people won't notice. It's just I'm very picky. It was very, very slow. It's very slow. It's very, very specific about building up the new area we go to, Toronto. It's very careful about introducing cultures really closely. In the same way that in Shadowbringers you go and you see all the new cultures and they're like different cultures because you're somewhere new. It's kind of similar in that it really laboriously like introduces all these things, and it's a very non-combative beginning. It's very, 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 very ponderous on culture, which is maybe not the best start to do that for 12 hours in a row, basically. So it's entirely focused on world building, and one of the things people don't like about it is that your cast of characters don't have character arcs because they're fucking finished. Because they finished all of them with such a fine, beautiful point in Endwalker.
Yeah.
That it was like people spent half the MSQ crying because it was just so perfect for pulling everyone's story together, including yours, right up to the last moment.
Your greatest victories set up, your great defeat.
Yeah, everything beautifully done, fantastic, excellent. And then they're like, okay, well, maybe you're not the main characters this time. Maybe you go do other things. So the new character introduced Wook Lamat. The story is...
I was wondering where we get to her.
The story is basically Wook Lamat is the main character. She's the protagonist of this.
Huh.
And you're all supporting in different ways. And it's all through like what you're kind of teaching Wook Lamat along that.
So
along her
your
journey.
cast of characters are kind of like worldly experienced, and
Yeah.
this is the fresh face character that you're
Yeah,
helping.
this fresh face character is kind of shit in a bunch of ways and really lacking. But as they like learn from you, as you respond to events and you like, they come to you for guidance a lot. It's really, really very, it feels like it feels almost in a weird way. And I will say I'm like 70-80% of the way through it. And I think it's fucking great, right? I really like it. Because they do all the world building so they can play with what they built. They do that. And it's very, very, very good. But definitely, like, Willamette comes into her own in a fantastic way and is an excellent character. I didn't really dislike her to begin with, or the whole way through. But she's definitely, like, a fucking idiot. A real kind of idiot. A real doesn't know what the fuck's going on. It's really idealistic in a way that doesn't really work in this world too much. And you end up kind of carrying her through that a little bit. Which, it's just hours and hours and hours and hours of that. They take so long to get you into a dungeon. And the first dungeon has, like, no real massive, like, point to it. It's really well designed. Fantastic game. But it is, like...
Going through review section, I've seen a lot of people they talk about the narrative things. They say, like, all dungeon content, whatever I've done, great.
Fantastic. Excellent. It's all genuine, like, I've only done the first trial so far. The first trial, fucking amazing. What an absolute stellar trial. Not as cool in any narrative sense as the first trial in Endwalker. Nowhere near, couldn't be. But
Hard
it
to
is
beat.
really very good.
There's a little bit of build up with that one.
Tiny bit. So, like, a lot of that's the problem. The story is not undercooked. The story's overcooked, maybe. They could maybe have cut maybe 20% of the first half.
Yeah.
Maybe they couldn't have. Maybe they couldn't have to a certain part because it kind of gets... because I haven't not finished it. I don't know how much of all of that world building they needed. It certainly feels like it's way too slow. And it's almost funny because it kind of suffers from like that problem of when you're playing through Dragonflight and you're like, I don't care about these fucking people. If you don't care about the people, you kind of not people. Like I completely disagree with Icaria saying it's the worst access of 14. It's the flaws of Stormblood Amplified. I completely disagree. The worst flaws of the worst excesses of FF14. It's like Stormblood Amplified. I don't actually agree with that. I can see how you might feel that way, but I don't think that's actually it because I think it kind of outclasses Stormblood in a bunch of ways.
Well, if you guys are in different places in the game, though, maybe because it seems like you are. Huh?
We have very different opinions on the main character as well.
Fair, okay, but it seems like you are perhaps at the point in the story where the really slow world building begins to pay off.
Yeah.
But it's always that thing that people talk about, like be it film or be it TV. I mean, TV actually, and this is not going to turn into let's talk about Star Wars, the Acolyte, and the internet. It'll be fun. No. But one thing that a lot of I've seen the Star Wars fans say is that they want less 8 episode long movies because they hate the pacing. And I certainly, I tried to watch Kenobi because I think Ewan McGregor is great. And, interested, right? It seems like, that's even though those characters were fleshed out by Big George in a bit of a funky set of 3 movies, the core drama, I think the problem, Star Wars prequels, I think, good ideas, I get it. Flippin' is Paul von Hindenburg going to give this new upstart angry painter man the chancellorship? That's the prequels. It's in old Star Wars, the rebels are like the Viet Cong, and Lucas has like literally said that. And it very obviously, like 1930s Germany's like a big inspiration in the prequels. So I thought like those characters great. And I went to watch Kenobi. Number one, you know what? It was like watching, and I guess this is the bit where it's actually really, there's a difference in a similarity, which is like why I bring it up. the pacing, turning it into an 8-episode movie, felt like they were basically using the fact that they could have a lot of screen time and a lot of budget as an excuse to be, I don't want to say bad. I mean, look, the end result was bad. It was bad screenwriting. It was badly paced. And because they had a television show format, but sort of wanted to do a movie, I guess, because, you know, they're these like one-shot, one-season prestige TV shows, and they just ended up being terribly placed. And I've continually seen people say that about the later Mandalorian stuff and about The Acolyte as well, where they hate this, you know, maybe there's a good movie in there, but the problem is like it's just paced awfully. And so I guess it's very easy to see that in Dawn Trail, because I think people would say, well, oh no, but look, if we watch all 8 episodes of Kenobi or Ahsoka or whatever, it comes together in the end, trust me. But then someone's going to say, right, but I don't want to watch 7 episodes of boring trash to get like 2 good bits at the end. And I guess, how do you feel, you know, that's like an example of sort of the format of TV actually, the format and the freedom of TV hindering that story. So do you feel like if they had, I don't know, a lower budget, or if they had less zones or a different format, that it would maybe not allow for this sort of, you could say, a lack of discipline? Because it does take a lot of discipline to cut something that you like. And you said about 20% you feel.
Yeah, they probably could have, at least in terms of how the speed of the actual like MSQ goes, they could probably have cut like the 3rd or 4th zone almost entirely, because it's like it's after the 4th zone when things really speed up, which is the exact same thing that happened with Endwalker. Realistically, you hit the 5th zone, you go, oh fuck, now we're cooking, holy shit. It had something to do up until then, and it's like that.
I mean, the process getting to the first trial in Endwalker was
like that narrative that narrative structure is kind of repeated here, because it's probably like, it's the same thing with FF16, where you can tell a lot of the production friendliness kind of put them into a box, and actually getting the story they wanted to tell inside that box was a little bit difficult, because it's clearly just like, it was a wee bit too long in the tooth at the beginning, which is interesting, because I only say that because I found it quite boring. If I were in a different mood, because I will say I also went into this weekend not in the mood to enjoy things whatsoever, and it forced enjoyment out of me quite often, but I was also fairly critical the whole time, going, okay, this is interesting, people aren't going to like this, people aren't going to like this, whereas I was enjoying it for the majority of it, because it's very slice of life. It's very slice of life, and the stakes are set up, but then they're not super, there's a couple bits of time where you go, oh, I don't know if this was one story and you've made it 2 by adding more on to the end, or if this was like one big story and got kind of weird in the middle or something.
Fucking Alamigo and thingy. Is it like that again?
It's not really.
Okay.
Because Alamigo and Cook and I were very split.
Yeah.
Very, very split.
Whoa.
This is the good one, this is the bad one. Yeah. At least for a lot of people. But there's a huge amount of like, basically there's one big impetus for adventure, and it takes way too long without anything interrupting it. And you just kind of go, oh, you have no breaks on this like straight direct journey. And the thing that I find interesting about it is because I really, it's the Final Fantasy X. It's also Final Fantasy IX in a bunch of ways. But you look at like the Pelu, and they're just straight out of FF10. A lot of the like world design, straight out of FF10. Right. And it has the same vibe of FF10 being a pilgrimage. And there's sort of a couple elements from like different characters of FF10 being there, at least that I've noticed. I'm also looking for it because I like FF10, but so that was there. And it feels like they didn't really, because the part of the adventure that was the pilgrimage, that was the adventure, that then had to give way to it had to accomplish what it needed to do, and then the next part of the story could start. There was a little bit of how to describe it? Like they didn't have enough room. It could have been longer or shorter, basically. They could have shortened the adventure so it didn't need a break, or they could have broken up the adventure a lot stronger. They didn't really they did it, but they didn't do it in enough of a way. And they kind of undermined the reason for the adventure or like the structure of it too early as well. Whereas like imagine you have, say, in anime or manga, you have a tournament arc, and then you introduce something a little bit of the way through that kind of undermines the tournament's arc officialness, or kind of breaks the rules of it a little bit. But then it kind of gets back on track a little bit. And it all makes sense. They don't like break the narrative structure whatsoever. It just feels a little bit like, that's really interesting that you did that. And these are very specific critiques for what's ultimately a bigger critique of it's slow and people don't like the slice of life. You're not the main character, Wook Lamat is. Especially because Wook Lamat's voice acting is definitely divisive. I think it's really good. I like it. But I could almost certainly imagine people not... I can also imagine people not liking listening to her very much.
Just so that you know, I'm just going to engage in a quick audio sample.
Yeah.
See what Lamat sounds like. I'll give you my immediate take.
Yeah. This isn't really an expansion designed for cutscene skippers. It's not, but it's also more designed for cutscene skippers than ever.
So the third auto suggestion does say there's Wook Lamat, FFXIV, and Wook Lamat spicy.
There's a scene where she eats spicy food.
Okay, well that's...
Either that or people are actually using spicy to search for art now, which is interesting. But never mind that. So I think she's like... Yeah, like I think there's clearly just a difference in opinion here. It's just divisive because Akaria says I switched to Japanese because I couldn't handle it. I really like it. I think the voice actor did a fantastic job. I think she's actually excellent in most cases. Some cases with the accent's a little bit put on. But like, yeah, it's like you explicitly not being the main character is something a lot of people are bouncing off. But I really like it because I get to see another character do something interesting, and I get to see that growth. So you get the growth of a character, and it's not you because there's nowhere else for you to grow. There's nowhere else for the Scions to grow. I do have a very interesting thought that I won't share on because it's spoilery on a couple things, but Michael's having a very interesting facial reaction to listening to her. I disagree. I think other characters are interesting and are likable. I actually like basically all of them. So I think it's a case of they've introduced new characters, and because they've had to do it so in one kind of gulf, that some people maybe don't like them.
I, on the outset, find that to be incredibly grating and painful to listen to. Nails on chalkboard.
Really?
And the intonation of things, it seems paced oddly. However, it is also the case that I could acclimatize to that and get used to it, and in the way that, you might hear your language be spoken by somebody from, a really different place, and it'll sound totally different, and you might, they're speaking English, but you might not be able to understand them. But then you hang out with them for maybe 10 hours and you can understand them, right? Because it takes a bit of time.
Yeah, that's so
it could be that. Could be that.
They almost went a little bit too hard on the impetus that this is an entire continent that's very, very different and there's very little crossover. The fact that we're even speaking the same language is very much a big kind of, we'll have to just kind of brush over that a little bit narratively. They explain it, obviously. But it's still it is, everyone speaks funny as fuck, but for a decent reason. And that's kind of there where there's,
actually, I can't place that accent. I'm really confused. I don't know where it's from.
I think, I can't remember. I know that it's not a natural accent. I know they're putting something into it. But I know I can't remember. It's a South America. It's all South American, obviously, because the whole thing is you go to the new world. Yeah. You go to America.
See, I'm seeing people say that it doesn't sound like there.
It doesn't. It's just the actor and then something else as well.
So I did just see here a headline, which of course means it's very important and absolutely true, from PC Games N. The headline is, FF14 Dawntrail dev was nervous about the, quote, bold approach to Wook Lamat.
Yes.
This was a interview with the English localization lead. Very interesting.
Yeah, they tried pretty. They tried pretty hard. That was
What's the Hrothgar? Because you know the way like the Draenei in Warcraft are like more, I guess, like Russia.
Yeah. I don't know, but also she's not Hrothgar in the way we know them.
Oh, all right, it's like
Because
yeah, okay,
you know the way in Shadowbringers, everything was different but the same.
Whoa.
It's kind of the same here, where they've got familiar things, but they're called different. They're the same, like racially, like, but their culture is different.
You telling me?
So like the Mikotes are called Hitzaru.
So you're telling me we're going to go to Avalorn finally in World of Warcraft 14.0, and we will find the glorious human capital city of Lightning Gale.
Yes.
And it's just all the same, a bit different.
The same. It's basically the same way the Arathi are different, where in that they have different cultural conceptions, but they are, we call them half elves, but I know where they're Arathi. Thank you. It's actually pretty similar because they are. What's the term? I can't remember the name that here are called for, but like here are called something different. Like there's goblins that are called moblins, and they're goblins, but they're slightly different. It's the same with like Viera are called like a different tribal name, stuff like that. So it is very they took a lot of risks, I think.
I think, do you know what it is for me?
Combined with being very, 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 what's the term for? Very confident and going, we're not going to pull any punches. We've built the entire, like the rest of this world. We're going to go through and flesh it out the way we know. I also think that the fact that it's all South American and North American, but not USA, is interesting, because you get to very mild, very, very, very mild spoilers. You get to a certain area and it all becomes very Native American. Very Native American. Like, how the fuck do I pronounce that Native American?
Okay, yeah,
like full on, holy Jesus Christ, that's nuts. And their voice acting's a bit awkward. I don't mind it, but it is like, oh my god, oh my god, why am I in Texas? What the fuck?
Right. So when you say awkward, is it just like, oh, this is suddenly like, those like old movies where, like, I don't know, like, as they were called at the time, the cowboy and Indian movies, and it would be like this really hokey, like, white dude in makeup trying to do an accent, and it's really awkward. Like, I'm trying to, like, what's the texture?
It's not that bad.
Weird?
It's not that bad. It's just like they're really putting on a very heavy American accent, very heavy, like Western, like you're just suddenly watching a Western movie for a bit. They really go all in on that. Maybe the localization team's getting very, very, very confident, and maybe overstepped a few bounds.
I mean, you do have their English localization lead here saying that she was really nervous.
Yeah, what's her name again?
Her name is Kate.
Kate, that's it. Yeah.
Swar.
Yeah.
Is that Welsh? There's a W and a Y, so I don't know.
Yeah.
It's Welsh Finnish.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. So they went very, 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 very heavy on the cultural and tribal stuff with like no base language. I have no idea.
I see. Okay.
I have no idea. I assume it's a lot more like normalized.
Yeah.
Because they don't fuck with any of that shit.
Well, some of my favorite ever was watching Godzilla -1. No, sorry, Shin Godzilla, and there's a bit where like an American character says like we're going to drop the nuke, but it's the most like weird, hackneyed, the most unrealistic, overblown, stilted take of like the big blow it up yank. I don't know, it was so funny to me.
Yeah.
Because it was like, I don't know, maybe that's what if you only hear like Japanese, maybe that's what American sounds like to you because it's so different.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think that I've done that. I imagine it's substantially more normalized. I also, like, I was looking through like the names and like, how are the Japanese ever going to pronounce these? This is going to be 40 characters in katakana. Good luck. Like, they're gonna shorten these to 3 syllables and never say the full thing because it's fucking insane. And it's like not even just insane, like why are there 7 vowels or 7 vowels and then 7 consonants? Not like that kind of insane. But even like playing through like there's a character name that's just for most people in the West, you're going to see that and go, how the fuck did you get that noise out of that? What the hell? What? Okay, sure, whatever. That's fine. That's great. That's great. So I think there's going to be a lot of pushback to this.
Oh, I've just heard it in Japanese.
No, is it different? Or is it the same?
Absolutely night and day.
Is it just a normal voice?
It is just Japanese.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Okay, well, I want to hear
Yeah, that's what I
somebody
figured.
try to speak Japanese, but in a like I don't know, American accent or an Irish accent. What the hell would that sound like?
It'd sound terrible. It would sound terrible, and that's why you're
Yeah.
always supposed to take the accent of the language you're learning.
Yeah, because I know if you do like voulez-vous coucher avec moi?
Yeah.
Not normally the sort of thing I just say in the internet randomly.
Oh yeah, of course.
But yeah, well, if you say some like Romance languages with our intonation, it's brutal.
Yeah. It's like even about the fucking just straight go Japanese accent. Ore wa namae wa Mato desu. Yeah. Yeah.
It's really
You're
funny.
like, what the fuck? Hello? Are the names often different Japanese? A lot of things are very different in Japanese. So I imagine this actually might be a less grading experience in Japanese, realistically, which is probably where they like the English localization team just decided we're going to go all fucking in on this. Because that's the thing. Like it wasn't quite an argument, but a very long conversation with a friend of mine who's playing it in Japanese and reading it in Japanese.
Very good.
And I'm just like, we basically got down to the bottom of no. He plays things in Japanese where he can because that's the original. And I'm like, no. Japanese FF14 isn't the original because that implies that here's the original, and then a localization process happens and it's no longer the original. This is effectively development done in parallel, 2 different versions of the same game, made by different teams in a bunch of ways.
Look away if you do not want a visual spoiler of the end of not the end of Endwalker, but a scene in Charlian with this character.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Because I just skipped forward in the video and I was confronted by this.
Oh yeah.
And the fact that it is just like turkeyleg.png.
Yeah, it's work. We'll have to that with a big bit of meat.
But it's like she's a character in a video game.
Yeah.
That's a picture of meat.
It's not.
Oh, it looks like a picture of meat.
Yeah, it's rendered meat like.
Yeah. Oh no, I know it's rendered meat. It's just like, she's got the like, I suppose, cat fur texture, and that just looks like a photograph of meat.
Yeah.
A 3D photograph. A photogram.
Photogram. Yep, that's it. That's it. So like, well, I haven't finished. Don't you? I can't give like an overall review of the story. I think the opening really should probably be faster. I think they've made themselves enemies with how they've done things in a bunch of ways.
That's a damning indictment.
Yeah, I think you're going to have it split, and you're probably going to lose a lot of players from the next expansion as a result of this, because how do you follow Peak?
Yeah, fair. Always going inherently hard.
Do you follow Peak with, something? What do you call it? Do you follow Peak with something that attempts to emulate that peak, or do you follow Peak by going, well, what's the correct thing? How did we get to that peak? And that's begin another climb. And they're very much beginning another climb very carefully and very... and they're not fully doing that. Like, you get to a point in the story and you go, oh, there's more familiar elements coming out. Oh, okay, I see what you're doing. Oh, right, okay. Okay, I like this now. This is better.
Yeah, that's where Shadowbringers took its time to, like, introduce... Like, that's why you cared about saving...
But Shadowbringers opened way stronger.
Oh, its opening was so good.
There's two things about Shadowbringers. I was thinking this. There's 2 things about Shadowbringers that made it better. Number 1 was context. The context for you ending up in Shadowbringers and the last couple patches of Stormblood, fucking incredible. And they tried to do...
story of a little robot fucking hits you hard.
Yeah, they tried to do a couple different things with that. Like, even like you show up and the setting's fantastic, you immediately are overwhelmed with what the fuck do you mean? There's no nighttime? Oh shit, holy shit. This is really crazy. It's cool. Shadowbringers.
Oh, so...
Do you remember Shadowbringers?
Really confused.
Yeah, sure, like, and everything is like really like genuinely fantastic. But the execution there was better because you had the zone where Alizé was the main character.
Yeah,
and that was a really strong zone from beginning to finish, where they were super. Basically, Shadowbringers, the first is fucked, and you get to see it being fucked, and you get to unfuck it, and you're the warrior of darkness. You're cool as fuck, or you become that over time, and you're really involved, and all the Scions are really involved and struggling with it.
There's
And
a
you-
really
and you-
cool little guitar riff about just how cool you are.
Yeah, and you
Helps.
have the looming threat
Yeah.
of everything going on. This lacks basically all that because it's just
Okay.
not there.
So do you think this would risk for the for the average player who, maybe they're not diving deep into the lore, but they enjoy the story. There's a great spectacle, solid characters, good performances, good time. Do you think that to them this would risk coming across as disconnected stuff?
No,
Okay.
it's not disconnected stuff. It is one whole big new thing. And it's very intentionally. And like the prologue to this is every character staring you in the face and going, this is going to be a fucking new thing. Please, for the love of God, accept new journeys and all that being a new journey. Remember that you're doing things for the love of it and accept the moment-to-moment thing as you go. They basically preempted this by saying, fucking, you know what this is going in. Please enjoy. Please don't be insane about it.
That is an admission that their narrative design is bad. You should not need to say that. You should be able to pace and weave so that the player learns all of the, so that happens along the way and that they are really gripped along the way. It feels like
I wouldn't say that's an admission because I kind of hammed it up there. But it is clearly like you're going to a new place.
Okay.
Here's the reason you're going to the new place: to adventure, to journey. Please enjoy.
It's not like Promare.
Yeah.
I like before we sat down to watch Promare, there's like a little, few minute video from the directors, and they say, and there's a really cool bit at the end with the sun, and we, it gets a bit weird, and we really hope you like it. But it was so awkward and endearing, and the microphone quality was so bad that I was like, that's cute. I like it. Okay, this is really interesting to me. I'll admit, I was really, like, whenever I saw that this morning, I was really surprised.
Yeah, I was not.
Wow.
Because I'm someone who really likes a game story and I'm patient and enjoyed it and can enjoy world building and can enjoy the quieter moments. And I was like, fuck me, this is very slow. You should have beat our fucking heads in, a zone in. You should have done something along those lines. Because even like Shadowbringers had the overarching threat of what was happening to your character as you go through. This is just kind of like you're being chilling with the boys.
Right. See, I remember in Stormblood, like, I had criticisms, especially that first zone with the fucking pirate fellas and I was about to call them the donut people. No, the turtle people.
The donut people.
That and the turtle people. And I thought that honestly, I just kind of thought that blew. I didn't hate Alamigo. I know a lot of people did.
I didn't either.
I didn't. I was happy enough. And, it was a military campaign with the boys. I was pretty happy with that.
Can't beat it.
And whenever, British property getting into the other continent, I thought that was really great too. In both cases, there was big moments of spectacle. Like I remember, is it like a siege on an outpost in Alamigo and the whole thing goes tits up and shit explodes. It's a big... and you whatever the scene is, you come to and there's destruction everywhere and people are dead and it feels like there's stakes. And then once you get through of the weird pirate people area, there's like rebel shit and the dungeon, the castle dungeon towards the sorry, memory bad. I remember the experience, but that was very compressed for me, so it was a very dense save file.
Yeah.
But I guess like with Xenos,
Xenos, yes.
Brain's fried today. He'd constantly appear, and you might be confused, but giving you some menace, and like a force against you. So I suppose even though yes, there were pacing problems with Stormblood, I did feel like in both of the campaigns, I felt that even though as a human playing the game and having a critique of it, it was badly paced, I still felt that my character's actions were motivated. And, with the rest of the cast, we were, it wasn't just, as you said, being chilling with the boys. It was, we're doing shit that matters.
Yeah. I mean, there is motivation. It's just substantially lower stakes than we have to save this immediately now because it's on fire.
Is it more passive? Because in both cases, the threats in Stormblood, and I guess I use Stormblood because maybe that's the one people will draw a comparison with, the threats felt really active and against your characters. and there's maybe a bit of a sense of sort of foreboding or whatever. Is that here in Dawn?
So there's a couple of Sword of Damocles in the plot that are just hanging over your head, and you're like, this is going to explode somewhere. But generally speaking, you mostly go unmolested for the majority of it.
I can see how that's a problem.
You go decently unmolested, especially because they do the same thing where it's like pick zone 1 or 2 to go first, and you do those in a row, and they're both similar in tone.
No.
And then you kind of go, okay, and the third zone's over there. So like you're basically a good 12 or 10 hours in before anything of note really happens.
So I remember with the Legion BlizzCon.
Yeah.
Whenever they announced, and you can go to any zone in any order.
Like, no!
The me that just was like, okay, well, blue in some ways, but the story was great. I'm like, oh no, it's a fully modular story with no pacing. That's not a feature.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a controlled challenge scenario, so stages are by default more playful. There's a lot of that to it, where you're like, okay, well, you're on this adventure that's like overarchingly a game. Not a game, but like it is a thing you're doing, and like there are challenges to that, but the challenges to that take a while to manifest and are a little bit more hanging over your head because they need those elements for later on.
Yeah,
effectively. There's also a little bit of like there are issues that make it way worse. Like these problems could be fixed in, I think, 2 quick additions or changes.
Are these? Do you think? Blind spots, maybe?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably there's like I think it's content stuff. I think it's like content wise, where you have to fit it into you get to this level and you do this dungeon, you get this level, do this trial, do this dungeon, do this dungeon, do this trial, that kind of thing. Where it's just okay, well we can't just go, well here's a load of shit for you to do. It's the same problem that World of Warcraft runs into a lot of the time, where it's like, yeah, we would love to have a story bit here, but we don't have any room for the story bit. Sorry, because we can't give you a dungeon here. We can't give you a raid here. We can't have you deal with a threat here because we can't do that. We can't do that. So you struggle with that, like if they maybe threw a solo duty in a different time, you'd maybe be way happier. And it's like it would be a rearrangement of things to put some things a little bit earlier and to bring the stakes a little higher.
Ah, man.
But there's like it is definitely hurt by just the general noise of being this is a completely different area where we cannot build anything up in the same degree where A Realm Reborn became very formulaic and very okay, well here you're introduced to these people and then something happens.
The slog of all slogs.
Yeah, it falls under a lot of the same issues of we are maybe overconfident in how much our players are willing to go through cultural introductions and small stakes problem solving. Which is where that obviously like Shadowbringers didn't have that issue, and obviously Stormblood didn't have that issue because it had the overarching setup going and the introduction, and then had that issue. Endwalker had that issue a little bit, but it was ignorable because you were super fucking down to see anything your characters did. Because even like fucking half of Labyrinthus was boring as fuck, but no one gave a shit.
Yeah,
because it was you were on this journey to the end.
Yeah,
whereas
Labyrinthus was a low for me. It really helped that I loved the old Charlian introduction. Yeah. I thought that was great. And it wasn't bombastic. It was just, I care about these characters and I love the downtime with them. One thing, and maybe the final little thing before we sort of bench this, I dare say Matt might have finished the story by next Monday.
I hope I have. If I haven't finished it by tomorrow night, I will.
The seagulls will have got him. But what appears in my head is our earlier talk about local story. So if you weren't there for that segment, there are new quest markers in World of Warcraft. They've tried to tighten up their design so it's a little bit more clear, and they've added a legend in the map to explain it to people. So you can see campaign quest, legendary quest, and then just a regular ass like wow exclamation mark. They're not called side quests, they're called local story. And earlier in the stream, you said, oh man, I see all these quest icons like legendary, important, campaign, and meta, but you see local story, you're like, give me some of that. Which makes sense.
Because they're good. and have
Yeah.
beginnings, middles, and ends.
Yeah, and they tend to be tight. They tend to have like a sort of a psychological is the wrong word. They're trying to say something. They're trying to explore a thing with the character. So, do you maybe think some of what's going on here is the A plot? I don't want to say it deviates too much into what WoW now calls local story, but do you feel like maybe a tighter A plot that brought you through the zones? Do you think that might have served them a little bit better? And the thing that I guess sort of splits off from that, and the other idea, the other thought is an inherent struggle with MMOs is you're doing a new world. In this case, they really are doing a new world. And yeah, how many zones are there?
6.
All right, you got 6 zones. You got to put shit in them. And sometimes filling 6 zones with a bunch of stuff means pacing's hard.
Yeah, I think it boils down to a rearrangement. A rearrangement would probably fix it. And like the A plot is pretty tight, realistically.
Okay.
It's just that what actually is in the A plot is maybe like they've weighted it a little bit too heavily towards here's all the introductory stuff early, and then here's the other stuff towards the end. And that's where the kind of problem comes in, where you couldn't pull any of that stuff out of the beginning because it doesn't actually. If you pull anything out from the first half, you just ruin the end. Yeah, you just clearly ruin the end of it. So all they really could have done is maybe lengthen it and introduce some stuff into like maybe the third zone or something like that. It was a little bit heavier because they did have some stuff in the third zone, but it didn't really have any other. Like it was literally just people are getting bored, and also like this comes into people starting to like get bored enough to skip and not care about anything, which is not really my problem. Where I was enjoying everything and seeing. Well, there's definitely part where like the one of the first zones has I don't want to call it like a glaring writing issue, but it's still part where I was scratching my head going, you did not fucking bring your A game here, Jesus Christ. Right. Which is just a little bit of like they make out the locals to be fucking dumb accidentally. And I'm like, that was
like an oversight.
Yeah, like an oversight. And I'm like, that's really interesting. Was it who the fuck wrote this? Was it that guy who wrote this? Yeah, probably. But it's hard to know what they could have done because it's like they needed to do it. So I guess it's like I'm saying, like the rearranging a little bit and putting some more drama into the first third. Probably
I guess sometimes
would have done
it's
it.
like if you have a big structural issue, you only have so much time. Maybe you only know you have the structural issue via playtesting in like the last quarter of your development cycle. You have a release date. You can't delay it too much. Fuck.
Yeah. There's also a little bit of like the way they actually structure their stories means that I'm sure making any small changes to the first third is going to be fucking hard because you've got everything so perfectly nailed down that it's like it ends up being quite rigid and not really flexible. You know, whereas in World of Warcraft they could just pull a zone and no one would notice half the time. Which is really unfair to say, but it's also kind of true. In this case, if they like touch anything, you're like, wait, no, you have to like rewrite half the fucking ending for that to make any sense because you have this like logical thing sorted overall. But yeah, it's like it's a combination of these factors. It's literally just they had to try something new and they tried maybe too many new things at once. Fair. That on top of the new debuff is just going to mean some people are not going to like it as much.
Yep, there's a lot against it. It's an inherently hard challenge. It also seems that they have made genuine mistakes, and maybe they would have done things different if they, if I wanted to be really, really, really very like analysis mode about it, I would maybe start to talk about the fact that CS3 are working on 2 other games and finished up FF16. I was going to bring that up, but I don't know enough about them. So I know that's been an angst. And it's been an angst through Endwalker patch.
Yeah, FF16 very clearly took away from Endwalker patch cycle stuff.
That's a great shame considering what Endwalker represented.
Which is like, and it's also a little bit overblown, I think, is fine. The actual content of this expansion so far, like trials and battles and stuff. Some issues with class design, a little bit, because they're pushing up what they can really do at level 100 without reworking classes too much, and the fact that they're also changing battle content, which we haven't seen like raids, so we don't know how to what degree Savage is changing, that we can't get class change as well. So it's like it's very, very, very good, like fucking fantastic dungeons and stuff. But the fact that there's maybe a little bit less of the team going full bore on it.
Yeah.
Is there? No, I would need to check the credits because I feel like there's new writers as well. I feel like there's segments that I go, oh, this was not written by anyone who fucking touched Shadowbringers or Endwalker. I know it. I can tell you because you're making mistakes and having pacing things, and it doesn't have the same flair. I know that's not you.
And there's a challenge where maybe some of your most senior people, if you're going to kick off a new game project, and in the design stages, like age, it's not a junior's fault that their work will be worse. They just don't have as much experience. So you need to take your seniors, and your seniors will lay out principles. They'll provide support and things so that your juniors can do better and better work, and one day themselves become the seniors. And that probably pulls seniors away from the thing that is already the live thing.
That's exactly what is, like, without checking credits, I can't say, but I definitely feel like that has happened. Okay. It felt very, very, very obvious in Endwalker patch content because I liked it more than the average person. It was very, 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 very up my alley, and I really enjoyed it. But there's also parts where I'm like, that is deeply amateur.
I see.
There was one specific bit which was right in the 6.5, and I went, that was, I wouldn't have made that mistake. You had what could have been a fucking excellent moment, and you botched it because
what's the nature of the botch?
The nature is a big character moment, very big character moment, very big transformational character moment that they built up nicely, but the actual execution just wasn't quite there, and I'm like, ooh, fuck.
And when you say execution, is this
script?
Is this how it visually was presented?
This is in the script and how it was in a scene, like what the impetus for it was, and I'm just like, bro, what the fuck?
I see.
That would have been, I would have been here fucking hooping and hollering and cheering in my chair, but instead I was like, cool, nice you did that. Cool, nice you did that. And I knew it was coming because the story's building, but like, fucking hell, man, you really could have done.
I mean, a lot of people
more.
have attributed things to Yoshi P having a very, and it's always challenging, and it does often seem that maybe it's a cultural thing or whatever, but maybe in the East more than the West, you do get more of the auteur. Whenever I see people talking about so many different studios, it's always about like the game director, and that's like really, really important. Whereas I guess the Western model's not been recently as much as an auteur thing. That being said, sometimes that's just because it's been throwing bodies at the problem to make the infinite horror. I meant to say hell live service. Horror hell hall. That's how that happened. Okay. But now. He's not called Yoshi W, Yoshi Writer, or Yoshi D, Yoshi Director. He's called Yoshi P, Yoshi Producer. And if we're to assume that, the P actually does matter, and they're kicking off a new game project, I don't know what these other games are. I assume there's FF16 DLC, and maybe they're doing another game. 16
DLC's done.
Okay, so that's a lot.
Well, 16 DLC probably did take away from a decent bit of that, especially because 16 didn't quite carry the story home for a lot of people.
Yeah. So that's just going to mean that he'll be, obviously, he will be more split. And I don't want to say that it seems that micromanaging does seem to be a thing that they've done in the past.
Oh, no, literally anytime literally anything that you'll see with him, like, talking about how he runs the studio he is the micromanaging fucking god. Like, he is like, I will fucking know to the second what my teams are doing, and nothing gets past me without me fucking clearing it. Like,
well, the problem is,
like the times when Soken talks about like Yoshi P, and it's just like, he would just turn in shit. You should be like, that's fucking dog shit. Try it again, and you're like, fucking hell, man.
So the challenge there is that works until you become the bottleneck.
Which
Hello.
he almost certainly will be.
I have became the bottleneck many times, and it's meant that people who, who depend on me for work things, they end up not shipping something as good as it could have been, and the reason why is I was bottlenecked. Maybe I wasn't able to support them. Maybe I was too late whenever I did a recording. In a case like that, I need to make sure that I'm not the problem, kind of get out of the way to let the team do good work. And if it is the world of micromanagement, that doesn't scale. And if Square Enix expect one studio to move from doing one thing, I know that FF16 dev probably kicked off flipping late Heavensward or
It was late.
yeah.
It was late Heavenward.
So like I mean I get that that's
Yeah,
happened.
they still shipped everything else. Doing FF16, so everyone goes to clear. That wasn't a problem.
Oh, there's 2 more projects and 16.
There's two more projects. I think one of them is the FF9 remake. I don't know which. And I think it was people are suggesting the FF9 remake and the Tactics remake, and everyone's going, "There's no way they're doing all of that."
Yeah,
but who knows?
because apparently, well, if it is true that they are, and you do have a very centralized, very top down, very pro micromanagement. I mean, that can work if you are, I suppose, the very rare 1% of people who are able to be Mr. or Mrs. whatever auteur god person. But that doesn't scale, and it also doesn't last because no one is superhuman.
Yeah.
And maybe they are coming up to a stage. Obviously, I'm just spitballing. It's just a theory.
Yeah, it's real hard to know, and things may have changed in the past. Like
But maybe
years.
things that worked in the past have not stood the test of scale. And that's unfortunate. That being said, it is also a really, really, really hard problem.
It's also more likely than anything else. I think a lull with new new staff members being trained up, because I always think of it like the most. I try to be in the most like holistic view of things is what I try to take a lot of the time, and in specifically in certain cases I like to look at what happens to your staff when you finish Endwalker. Like, I'm sure lots are going, I fucking love working at 14. I'll work on to the day I die, like UPP says. But I'm sure there's also a lot of people going, bro, I've worked in the game 10 fucking years, and we just shipped Peak twice in a row. We just shipped 2 solid 10 out of 10s. Yeah. I'm going to go lie the fuck down, please.
And Thank also you. Taking a leaf out of their own story, new adventure. Yeah. And maybe that's not the same game.
Yeah, I'm gonna go work on. I'm gonna work on an action game. Oh, FF16. Oh, I'm still in team. Yeah.
So right. This is interesting. Time to draw things to a close. I look forward to seeing how things develop next week. I think it's real interesting, and maybe we've clearly got to your journey of this game after the point where it started to pick up and they started to make good on some of the things that they set up. So it is probably good that we're talking about this in a world where you have actually seen some of the good, because it maybe seems that if you were 50% of the way through or 40% of the way through, and if you were to assume that the rest of the expansion would be roughly of the same quality as the first half of the expansion, I get a sense that might be a bit more dismal.
Yeah. It's very it's very hard to say anything about it because I definitely don't want to spoil people, but there's definitely the story definitely does speed up and improve.
You know, it's funny. It is such whiplash to the War Within narrative video that I've decided I'll record tomorrow morning. I should sleep first.
We didn't talk about this stream. I will say to, like, I've seen people chat and like, is FF14 like, has it been dethroned?
Is it Jover?
No. FF14's writing and like thing could be literally 40% as good as it is now and still clear World of Warcraft fucking free. Like,
interesting.
No two ways about it. And this isn't talking about like the War Within specifically as it compares to Dragonflight or anything. It's literally it's just the quality gap of storytelling is that beyond. Like, I would take A Realm Reborn over any World of Warcraft expansion storytelling was.
You're insane.
You're insane. Except maybe Wrath or Mists.
What?
Okay, what?
You would.
Well, that's Wrath, Mists, or what? Okay. Legion had a fucking terrible story. Largely speaking, the campaign was fine.
It didn't have much of a story until it was patched down.
BFA didn't. Yeah. It was a load of shit put together. Shadowlands was a load of shit slapped together. Dragonflight was a load of shit slapped together that they fucking clearly axed halfway through. Same with Shadowlands. Half of BFA was axed. Clearly.
Nice cultures and
half of WoD was axed. Yeah, but I get that in FF and also a story. But yes.
Interesting. Yeah. Broadly, I mean, I think the line from you is that it is probably the best we got since Legion. It does it does fall to the pitfalls of some of how Dragonflight has been, but it does seem to be more balanced. However, still a victim of speed, because very clearly they do want it to be like in 8 hours maybe 10 hours experience to like do all the main quest.
Including max level 10, probably, yeah.
And in FF14 thus far?
Well, I played a couple hours Friday, literally a good like 14 to 16 hours across Saturday and Sunday. So I'm probably at like 20 something hours and I'm like 70% of the way through.
So you're probably, I mean, that's the challenge.
So we're looking at like, a 30-hour game.
We're comparing a
30 hours of fucking reading.
Yeah, we're comparing a visual novel interspersed with some cool dungeons and cooler trials to, I guess, what WoW does. And for some people, they're like, you know what, that visual novel might be fine. That's not how I want to spend my gaming time.
I fucking love reading. I love reading. Gameplay? No, no thank you. No thank you. I'm okay. I've got enough of that. What level are you? 98.
I think that maybe is to say that it is a strange, and even in the old days of the two games fighting each other, it was always apples and oranges comparing them.
Still is.
In terms of writing.
Obviously
and it still is. I think it seems that we have caught FF at a time where it is struggling to make good in the best of its formula, while we are seeing War Within actually improve.
On an upswing, like?
On an upswing. But they're still very different, and how much you'll enjoy either will depend on what player you are. And I have a feeling that Shadowbringers specifically was just so high quality that
solid 10.
Yeah, I think it was just so high quality that a lot of people who really would not normally like that really liked it. Which is a testament to its quality and, I guess, impossible standards, yada, yada, yada. That being said, hello, and welcome to the end of the stream where I will now tease you with some content. Less of a tease and more, I'll just tell you what we're currently thinking about. Videos. We have a bunch of gameplay-related stuff for pre-patch, things you should consider doing or not doing before pre-patch. So we're working our way through those. I've got a basically Illyria's story from beginning to end. A lot of
Who?
Some elf.
I suppose your video will answer that question.
Exactly.
That'll be very useful for me then.
we did like a long, like, look, here's the story of Xalatath, start to end. Away you go. People really enjoyed that. So we got that coming for Illyria. And Matt's War Within campaign review is also coming out. And we have an add-on spotlight that is a particularly cool one.
Do we? Oh, yes, we do, yes.
Yeah, we do. You've written most of it.
Whoops. I forgot what you were talking about. Yes.
So that's kind of the stuff that we're doing. Yeah, I suppose other than that, take care. We did have a break of format. The WoW news went up on Friday, and we were able to have a video on the schedule for Sunday. And it's actually 1 out of 10 currently. Quite a lot of people viewed it, which I was pretty excited about because it is Midnight, and Midnight's expansion I'm really excited about because I've just like got stuck in the same sentence structure.
It's next. It's the next one. Worry about this one, fuck's sake.
Aye. Does, however, happen to be the first time we return to the old world since Cataclysm. That's inherently pretty cool.
Joke's on you. They're going to take the absolute piss out of you and just throw us into old world for the entirety of patch content for the whole thing, just to make you wrong.
I'd be happy.
I would not.
I can also see that, yeah.
I would not, because I would just add more phases. I'm like, there's already a Zadormi in every zone. I don't want 3 Zadormis. Thanks.
So phases be troubling. But there we go. The takeaway is numerous good developments for the War Within. A little bit of a mixed development for Dawn Trail. But we could perhaps say, there's definitely pacing criticisms. Same happened for Stormblood. Stormblood did also do a pretty good job of setting things up, and they really were able to pull it together and deliver a amazingly strong set of patch quests. So I suppose the hope is that they have swallowed the frog, so to speak, that they have sucked in the lemon, that they've kind of got the hard part out of the way. And maybe they were a bit blunt and a bit obtuse about how they just rammed you full of new and didn't really help players into that experience. But maybe. Just maybe as it goes into the patches, they could make good on it.
Sure will.
Because I suppose I remember a lot of people. Oh my god, my brain's messed up. Characters, Emmett Selk. That was it. I remember a lot of people really thought Emmett Selk was super lame.
That is the most funny turnaround I think I've ever seen in someone experience anything. People
Yeah.
are like, who's this fucking guy? Never going to like him. And you flash forward a few years later, and people are like, I would die for him.
Yeah, suddenly it's like people have, I think, straight up went from hating that character's guts to like,
that is my sweet baby
Yeah,
child, and you will not look at them.
they've like done the scratch card, and what's been revealed rather than like a prize amount is you're bisexual now. They're like, oh shit, I cannot believe Yoshi P did that to me via Hithlo and Emmett Selk.
Yep. One of the most incredible cases of hang on, old man yaoi is a thing and people like it. Awakenings that people ever had. It's
There
like,
you
why
go.
am I shipping an old man with a different old man? What the fuck has happened? Holy shit. This is fantastic.
The power of words. Right, yeah. Oh man. And Walker. Writing. And Walker and Shadowburn, such an experience. But that is it for the stream. There shall be content throughout the week. It's been Monday. I hope you have a really good week. We will see you back live next Monday, and many videos in between. So that is that.
Yes. That's us.
That's us.
It's now 9:30, so I'm probably not going to go back and start playing Dawn Trail because I'll be finishing it all night. Fuck.
Big F.
Anyway, yes.
It's time for you to do the deed.
It is. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.
Have a great week. See you next time.